Part 42. So, they were the protagonists all along. Author, CCC. Chapter 417. Is this Luotan's palace? As expected of an alchemist, it's really luxurious. At this moment, Musian, led by a maid, followed her into this extremely luxurious palace. It has to be said that this is the immortal dynasty that has been established for a long time. Musian saw many rare beasts and various unknown treasures along the way. These things alone are priceless. In the past, there were rumors among the people that the longest reign of a dynasty would not exceed 300 years, but that was limited to the emperors of the world. The immortal dynasty founded by the empress of the Hedeo realm is difficult to destroy as long as the lifespan of the Hedeo great power is still there. With some emotion, Musian followed the maid for a while and suddenly realized that something was wrong. I say, it doesn't seem like we are going to Daoka Palace. On the way with the maid just now, Musian also saw luxurious palaces and even various rare fruits, but now he only saw some ordinary flowers, plants, and trees. The most important thing is, where is the palace that can be reached by a small path? Your Majesty has ordered that you should talk to young Master Mu alone about some private matters, so please go to Yeoxin Palace where she lives to talk. The maid patiently explained, and then pointed to the palace not far away. It's there. When she said this, she couldn't help but secretly look at the big boy a few more times, and her eyes were more subtle. Although she had heard His Majesty mention that Musian's body flowed back to the past before, she was still a little surprised when she saw him before. I don't know what important things His Majesty has that he has to talk in the bedroom where she lives. As a maid who served His Majesty in the past few years, Gansui would naturally care about His Majesty's affairs. After all, I have never seen His Majesty care so much about any opposite sex before. Do you have something to tell me? Musian naturally noticed the subtle look of the maid and asked immediately. The maid shook her head slightly at first, motioning Musian to follow her to the Yeoxin Palace, and then suddenly asked. Mr. Mu, have you ever heard of the story that a human emperor of a dynasty in Dongzhou married a beautiful woman who charmed everyone, and the dynasty eventually fell? Musian recalled a little and smiled. Are you talking about the 6th dynasty of Dongzhou? He had some impression of the story recorded in the ancient book. The 6th dynasty was one of the most powerful dynasties in Dongzhou. The king was wise and his lifespan was extended by 100 years because of his practice of Taoism. At that time, the dynasty was prosperous and the people lived and worked in peace and contentment. However, after that, the king married a beautiful woman who was so beautiful that she could overwhelm the whole country, and even made her start as a noble lady for the first time. Since then, the king was obsessed with beauty and neglected the court, and the dynasty gradually declined. If I remember correctly, the concubine that the emperor married was a demon cultivator from the Fox clan of the demon world. At that time, the demon world secretly sent people to suppress the fortune of Dongzhou, Musian said. But why did you ask this for no reason? The maid looked at the handsome young man meaningfully, with a bit of disgust in her eyes, but smiled and said, I just suddenly remembered this and asked casually, Mr. Mu, don't care. Is that so? Musian smiled slightly. Asked casually. Isn't it obvious that your Majesty treats me too intimately, so he hinted that I should restrain those random and messy thoughts. To put it bluntly, it is suspected that he is an undercover sent by Dongzhou to suppress the national fortune of Yuzhou. However, the problem is, I am a man, not a Deji, I don't have a natural charming physique, and naturally I can't be a fox spirit who brings disaster to the country and the people. On the way, the maid never talked to Musian again, but from the atmosphere between the two, Musian still felt the maid's hostility towards him. However, after all, he was in a foreign land. Even though Yao Meng was backing him up, Musian still thought it was better to have less trouble than more, and did not pay too much attention. Mr. Mu, please wait outside the palace. Unknowingly, the two had arrived at the Yeoxin Palace. After the maid Gansui briefly explained to Musian, she walked into the Yeoxin palace. Musian waited for half an hour. A full half an hour. Fortunately, I knew that Luo Tan had no grudge against me, otherwise I would probably think that she was deliberately making things difficult for me. Musian waited outside the palace very patiently. After a long time, Gansui, the maid who had gone in to report earlier, finally came out after much anticipation. She glanced at Musian and smiled lightly. "Mr. Mu, Your Majesty, please come in." "Was Your Majesty busy before?" Musian asked. Gansui shook his head gently. "Your Majesty was bathing and changing clothes earlier, so I was not able to report it." "Mr. Mu, I am so sorry." As he said this, he bowed leisurely, looking very polite. However, this seemingly polite action actually completely blocked Musian's way of questioning, not giving him any chance to accuse him at all. "I have already apologized, do you still want to embarrass me, a servant?" This is what the maid is expressing at this moment. Musian hummed, glanced at the maid, stopped answering, and followed her into the depths of Yeoxin Palace, where he took a sip of hot tea. After a while, he finally saw Luo, who was wearing a luxurious white dress. Tan walked to the palace. The moment she looked at the boy with exquisite and beautiful facial features, disheveled hair, and gorgeous eyes, her beautiful eyes suddenly lit up a little, but she maintained her usual indifferent smile. "Long time no see, little friend Mu, it seems like something happened during this time, a lot of things." When she said this, she walked to a chair aside and sat down. Her beautiful black stocking legs under the luxurious white skirt were crossed and she sat with her knee-length snow-white boots dangling. But his eyes never moved away from Musian's body from the beginning to the end. Instead, he looked at the young man up and down. "No wonder Qing Emperor came to me to refine the Tegzapil, hoping to restore you as soon as possible. This posture should be what you looked like a few years ago, right?" Luo Tan asked with a smile. "Does Yao Meng really want me to recover as soon as possible? Why don't I feel anything at all? She seems to be very happy practicing," Musian complained in his heart and said with a smile, "This is indeed what this junior was like a few years ago." He paused and asked concisely, "Your Majesty seems to want to confirm whether I have the body of a three-tailed fox in my body." Luo Tan shook his head and said calmly, "I believe Qingdi's judgment is not wrong. Since she said so, it's okay even if she doesn't have to be sure." Musian was startled. "If that's the case, why did you tell her that you wanted to see me alone? Isn't this an obvious thing? The deal between you and me has not been concluded yet. I want to see you and confirm that your current situation is not natural." Luo Tan held her cheeks in her hands and said to herself, "Actually, I know you should be very confused as to why I have met so many natural furnace bodies in the past and never chose them. Instead, I met you a few times. I chose you." She glanced slightly sideways, even though her movements were casual at the moment, and her beautiful eyes were even more seductive, they still revealed a majesty that people didn't dare to look directly into. "Your natural furnace is different from anyone I have seen in the past. Just like me, your natural furnace can continue to evolve. Even, your aura is richer than mine. Besides." Luo Tan stood up leisurely, with her long cherry-like hair hanging loosely. Her graceful and tight figure was highlighted under the luxurious white skirt. A pair of sexy long legs in black stockings were exposed under the skirt. There seemed to be special patterns on the black stockings. A small section of tender white thighs is exposed between the hem of the skirt and the black silk thighs. The skin texture is white and dazzling, charming and alluring. She stepped on a pair of snow-white boots, pressed one hand on the edge of Musian's chair, and put the other hand on his face. She leaned forward slightly, and a faint trace of light appeared on her stunningly beautiful face. "Smile. You are Qingdi's Taoist companion. It's so weird that you are in the Hedao realm. Do you all have a common hobby like N.T.R?" Mujian silently stared at these magnificent eyes and the smile in the woman's eyes, silently complaining in his heart. I have to say that this woman is indeed beautiful, but only Mujian can express such emotion. Not many people in Yuzhou dared to look up at the Medicine King, not to mention that she always had a sense of calmness and self-power. A strand of hair slid down along her ears and fell on her red mouth, adding a bit of charming and lazy beauty. As if she had just taken a bath, Mujian smelled a faint medicinal fragrance from her body, which was sweet and quiet, as if she was slightly tipsy like a rare fine wine in the world. After a moment of silence, Mujian suddenly grabbed her slender waist, squeezed it gently, and was about to move forward and kiss her red lips. However, at this moment, a green jade finger gently touched his lips. Luo Tan licked his red lips, with a teasing smile on his face. Then, he spoke in a calm and dignified voice, "What's the matter?" "I don't know since when." There was a maid standing outside the hall. She lowered her head slightly, and the location of the two of them was in the corner, and it was blocked by luxurious stone pillars. If you didn't look carefully, you couldn't see clearly. The Qing Emperor previously asked your servant to ask, if it is confirmed that Mr. Mu does have the physique of a three-tailed fox in his body, when will His Majesty plan to start refining the Tegzapil? As a confidant maid next to Luo Tan, Jing 11 naturally knew what Qing Emperor's purpose was this time. Realizing that Mujian was staring directly at her, Luo Tan licked her red lips and said with a smile, "Tell her that within 3 days, I will personally deliver the Tegzapil." She stared at Mujian and showed a faint smile, but whether he can refine it depends on his own ability. Hearing the footsteps in his ears gradually leaving, Luo Tan looked at Mujian's look of relief and suddenly whispered, "Is it exciting?" "Actually, even if I was seen just now, it doesn't matter." "It doesn't matter to you, but if the news reaches the ears of other girls, then you may have to see me in the basement." Mujian shook his head gently and whispered, "Your Majesty is the Empress of Yuzhou after all. If word gets out that I have a close relationship with you, it may affect your image in the eyes of your subjects." "It doesn't matter, Junior, but it would be bad if it affects His Majesty's image. After all, the people under you seem to be very concerned about this matter." "My servant," Luo Tan asked doubtfully, "who is talking about this?" "It's not really a discussion. I just talked to the juniors about the Fox tribe's troubles in the Dongzhou dynasty in the past." Mujian paused and forced a smile. "Forget it, it's not a big deal." "Your Majesty doesn't need to care about it?" Luo Tan raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Mujian meaningfully. Although Mujian said that he didn't need to care, seeing him like this, people couldn't help but care about him. After all, Mujian was her guest. If the servants really gossiped about this matter behind her back, naturally she would need to deal with it. Even the man she chose dared to make things difficult in secret. It seems that she has been too friendly to the servants around her in recent years. Luo Tan narrowed her beautiful eyes, slightly restrained her thoughts, and said, "You seem to be a lot weaker now than before. After refining the Tegzapil, I will have someone prepare some more pills for you to replenish your body." Mujian was moved, and immediately raised his hands and bowed, saying, "Thank you, Your Majesty. In fact, my complexion should be much better than before. After all, I was outside the palace in the sun for half an hour before, and I should look much healthier." Mujian smiled gently. Luo Tan hesitated and said, "Didn't the servant I sent to pick you up bring you into the palace? She said you were bathing and it was inconvenient to report, so she asked me to wait outside the palace." Mujian saw Luo Tan's frosty expression and continued, "Actually, the maid is a very good person. Maybe she was worried that it would be inappropriate for a boy like me to enter the palace when His Majesty was bathing, so she asked me to wait outside. She was thinking about His Majesty. Your Majesty, please don't blame her." Luo Tan's voice was cold, and he said coldly, "You are my important guest. If I can't even keep an eye on my subordinates and let the servants ride on the master's head, I'm afraid you will be uneasy even if you accompany me in Yuzhou in the future. Before she could continue speaking, a pair of hands wrapped around Luo Tan's plump waist. The beautiful eyes of the Yuzhou Empress flickered. She was about to speak, but the voice of the young man came first in this empty hall. Can you let me hold you like this first? I won't do anything. Musian said softly, just holding you like this makes me feel at ease. If the handsome boy before did this, it would inevitably be a bit artificial. But it's completely different now that the delicate and beautiful boy is doing this. For some reason, when Luo Tan felt the warm breath of the boy, her calm state of mind was inexplicably rippled. She looked down at the big boy in front of her, stretched out her hand and gently stroked his soft hair, and said softly, then it's up to you, I'll have someone send you to the guest room later. In addition, Luo Tan's delicate body suddenly trembled, and she wanted to explain something else, but when she noticed the pair of hands that had begun to be dishonest, her beautiful eyes gradually blurred, and she glanced at him in a reproachful manner. In order to achieve the best dual cultivation effect, Tianzhengluding and Tianzhengluding need another elixir, so she stopped Musian's random action before. But thinking about it carefully, it doesn't matter. Anyway, it doesn't matter as long as it doesn't develop to the last step. In other words, it's fine as long as it stops before the last step. The body of a three-tailed fox, if it can really evolve into a nine-tailed fox through the Tegzapil, then Musian will be the first male cultivator of the nine-tailed fox in the history of Zhuzhu. In the past, people always said that the nine-tailed fox charmed everyone. I wonder if it can also charm everyone if it is a man? Luo Tan leaned on the side of the boy, his left leg on his right leg, swinging his snow-white boots, and staring at Musian with a more meaningful look in his eyes. Really good, the black silk made in Yuzhou feels really good. After communicating with Luo Tan in the hall for a while, Musian sighed at the texture of the black silk, and returned to his residence, this time under the guidance of a servant. Along the way, he was still thinking about what happened in the hall before. After entering a loft, Musian soon saw the maid and Yao Meng who had been waiting for him. How is it? Yao Meng asked. Musian nodded slightly. Senior Yehuang has confirmed that I do have the bloodline of a three-tailed fox in my body, but she said that whether it can be evolved through the Tegzapil is still unknown, and whether it can evolve to nine tails is also unknown. The Tegzapil can make your demon race physique evolve, but whether it can evolve to the extreme depends on you. Yao Meng paused, looking at the young man with a smile in her eyes, but even if you can't evolve to the body of a nine-tailed fox, it is enough for you to return to your original state, and even switch forms freely in the future. Sensing a hint of relief and expectation in the eyes of this fairy, Wei Mengru on the side couldn't help but curl her lips and express her disdain. I really don't know why these people like the young master's current posture so much, although it's because of the novelty, it's a bit too exaggerated. Sister Mengru, what's wrong? Feeling the maid's disdainful look, Musian turned his head and asked in confusion. Nothing. Wei Mengru withdrew her gaze indifferently. But in her mind, she couldn't help but think of the night when she brought the young master back to the house, when she was in a superior position and took control of the initiative, and even completely crushed him. Wei Mengru's pretty face turned slightly red, and she lowered her eyes slightly, maintaining her calmness, but her thoughts gradually became more active. The current young master already has such charm. If he refines the Tegzapil and is promoted to a nine-tailed sky fox, no, he doesn't even need nine tails. As long as he can evolve the body of the three-tailed fox again, then what will happen to his natural furnace? What has it become? Although there was a look of disdain on her face, deep down in the maid's heart, she felt a little more hopeful. In the blink of an eye, 3 more days passed without realizing it. Deep in the Daoka Palace is a huge open-air venue. The venue is shrouded in formations all year round, and even the most powerful Hideo cannot easily set foot in it. In the formation, there is a bronze cauldron that looks quite simple at this moment. All things transform into Qi cauldron. This is the only alchemy cauldron currently known in Kyushu that is close to an immortal product. In the past, Yao Shan nearly died trying to obtain it. And this cauldron of all things transforming into Qi is indeed worth the risk. After all, the immortal elixir means that it is possible to artificially create an Ascension Realm human emperor. At this moment, Luo Tan was standing in front of the cauldron of transformation Qi of all things with his hands behind his back, taking out the materials from the ring together. 13 demon pills, various spiritual mines, even emperor-level medicinal materials that are extremely difficult to find in this world, and a bunch of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. There are too many materials required for a 9th grade elixir. As for such a material, ordinary monks may not be able to find it even if they spend their entire lives. Only these powerful Hedeo powers that stand tall in the world have been accumulated over time, and it took thousands of years to collect them all. But even if the collection is complete, an alchemist who can refine 9th grade elixirs is still needed. At this moment, Musian was sitting in the main hall, drinking hot tea, admiring the graceful figure of the maid in yellow skirt next to him, and enjoying her disdainful and disgusting eyes. You are really lucky. If you hadn't happened to meet the Medicine King, there would probably be no other person in the world who could refine the Taigzi pill, Wei Mengru said lightly. The 9th grade pill tribulation was no less than the thunder tribulation when one was enlightened and promoted to Hedeo. It was inconvenient for the two of them to go there, lest they be affected. Only Yao Meng went there specifically today to protect Luo Tan from the 9th grade pill calamity after she refined the Taigzi pill. Musian shook his head and smiled. What are you talking about, Sister Mengru? Although it is luck, it is actually also due to my own hard work. If he hadn't been the one who needed to take the Taigzi pill, Luo Tan might not have been able to refine the Taigzi pill. Wei Mengru said ha and glanced sideways at the young master. By hard work, do you mean sacrificing your own body? Musian coughed and said helplessly, Sister Mengru seems to have some misunderstandings about me. Oh. Wei Mengru only gave her master a look of disdain. She knew her young master very well. Although the Qing emperor was powerful, he still had not figured out Musian's temperament. Musian had frequently been in and out of Luo Tan's palace these days simply because Luo Tan was refining the Taigzi pill. Need his assistance. Although she had never seen it with her own eyes, she felt it might not be possible. After all, even those in the Hedeo realm may not be able to resist the temptation brought by the natural furnace cauldron. Boom! At this moment, a loud roar that seemed to shatter the sky resounded under the sky. Musian raised his head and looked at the place where the pill tribulations gathered, and said softly, the 9th grade pill tribulation has fallen. The Qing emperor has now become an immortal and ascended. With her protecting the medicine emperor, there will be no problem. Don't worry, Wei Mengru said. Musian hummed, and then looked at Wei Mengru with a complicated expression. Sister Mengru, tell me, if I really refine the Taigzi pill, will it have any mutative reaction with the Tiansheng furnace cauldron? In the past, his natural furnace cauldron had a talisman given by the spiritual dragon to shield the aura, so the spiritual energy in the natural furnace cauldron was not obvious. But you must know that the nine-tailed sky fox charms all living beings. In a sense, it has a very similar effect to the charm of the Tian furnace. The natural cauldron will naturally attract the love of female cultivators. If this cauldron absorbs the efficacy of the Taigzi pill. Or you can choose not to refine the Taigzi pill, Wei Mengru said. When Emperor Qing completely controls the principle of time, he will also be able to restore you. Musian shook his head. The physique of the demon clan is already stronger than that of the Dongzhou monks. If I can become a nine-tailed fox, I can become stronger in the future, not just to restore my original appearance. What's more? He raised his head and looked at the fairy who had appeared in front of the palace gate at a certain moment, as well as a colorful elixir suspended in front of Luo Tan, and said with a smile, since the Taigzi elixir is ready, how can we not the principle of refining? What are you talking about and looking so happy? Not far away, the Empress in a luxurious white dress walked over and handed the elixir in her hand to Musian. Nothing, just chatting with Sister Mengru for a few words. Musian took the elixir and looked at the colorful and crystal clear elixir with some interest in his eyes. Is this the Tegzu elixir? After taking the elixir, do I need to pay attention to anything? He looked up at Luo Tan and asked. Same as ordinary elixirs, just absorb them into your cauldron and refine them. Luo Tan said with a slight smile, and immediately couldn't help but look at the young man strangely. Although she knew that Musian did have the blood of the three-tailed fox in his body, the thought that he might be able to possess a body of natural charm after refining the Tegzu pill, when she thought of this, she felt extremely emotional for a moment. Of subtlety. This feeling is simply, completely irresistible. After all, the nine-tailed sky fox can see through a person's weaknesses. If it is used for flirting, Luo Tan's beautiful eyes flickered slightly, maintaining her usual luxurious and elegant posture. I will protect you here, so you can refine the Tegzu pill with peace of mind. Yao Meng stared at her with beautiful eyes and said softly. Musian nodded slightly, walked into the palace, sat down cross-legged in a formation that had been arranged in advance, then took out the Tegzu pill and swallowed it in one gulp. Time flowed slowly, and the two powerful men were outside the palace, quietly waiting for news from Musian. Does Emperor Qing think he can really fully absorb the efficacy of Tegzu pill? Luo Tan suddenly asked. I don't know, but concubine Shangyan said before that he can be promoted to the body of a nine-tailed fox. Yao Meng raised his head and looked at the sky that had gradually darkened and deepened at some point, but he felt a little more hopeful in his heart. In the past, the nine-tailed celestial fox once shocked the 9 provinces, and countless demon cultivators were willing to kneel before it. But the fox clan is now gradually declining. After all, if you want to cultivate to the 9 tails, you can't achieve it just by working hard. It has been a long time since Zhu has seen the grace of the 9-tailed sky fox. I am afraid that the demon world is also paying attention secretly. If he can really cultivate to the 9 tails, he will be able to freely switch forms at all ages in the future. I don't know when, the spirit beasts in Daoka Palace began to flee in panic, and above the palace, a faint pink aura seemed to be exuding. The evil spirit is soaring. Luo Tan raised his head and looked at the place where Musian was retreating, as well as the first foxtail shadow slowly spreading over the palace, and couldn't help but whisper to himself, it's begun. Hey, I originally wanted to finish writing this plot in one go and then post it, but I found that even if I wrote 10,000 words, I couldn't finish it, so I had to finish it in one breath tomorrow. By the way, there are 7,000 words today. So, they were the protagonists all along. Author, CCC. Chapter 418. Tegzu pill, as a special pill that can make the physique of demon cultivators undergo qualitative changes, has always been an immeasurable treasure in the hearts of demon cultivators. However, from the past to now, there are no more than 5 demon cultivators who have taken Tegzu pill. The first generation of Demon Emperor, the current Demon Queen, and a great man from the Fox clan, the 9-tailed Sky Fox, all 3 great men have taken Tegzu pill, and used Tegzu pill to break through the limits of their own physiques and resonate with the Tao. The other 2 Tegzu pills were obtained by 2 demon cultivators in the demon world in a certain ruins and refined, but they only improved their own physiques and did not make their own physiques evolve to the extreme. Because of this incident, people know that even if you take Tegzu pill, whether you can evolve to the limit of your own physique still depends on your personal talent and luck. But no matter what, as long as you are a demon cultivator who has taken Tegzu pill, your future prospects will definitely be limitless. The sky above the hall was filled with pink demonic energy, and in that pink demonic energy, it seemed as if there were faint shadows of foxtails swaying slowly in the air, showing off their beauty. Luo Tan stared at it for a moment, and suddenly whispered, how many tails does King Di think he can cultivate with the help of Tegzu pill? At least 7, As for the number above, it depends on his chance, Yao Meng said leisurely. Tegzapil, in a sense, allows the user to awaken the potential in the body. If the ancestors of the clan had a great power of Hedeo, they could even use Tegzapil to call back the spiritual consciousness of the great power that had dissipated between heaven and earth, and ask the other party to help them cultivate. However, most demon cultivators did not have great power of Hedeo. It is much more difficult for demon cultivators to cultivate to the Hedeo realm than for Dongzhou cultivators, because demon cultivators have stronger physiques than ordinary cultivators, so the difficulty of passing the tribulation is much greater than that of cultivators. However, by chance, the Fox clan once had a nine-tailed celestial fox in the Hedeo realm. Although she has fallen now, if Musian is lucky, he may be able to awaken her consciousness and ask her to help him ascend to the nine-tailed realm. Luo Tan smiled and nodded, saying, I think the same as you. Seven-tailed celestial fox is almost the limit that can be achieved under normal circumstances. Going further depends on chance. Now the demon world is probably also paying attention to this place in secret, Yao Meng suddenly said lightly. Luo Tan chuckled and said, if an East Continent cultivator can eventually evolve to a nine-tailed celestial fox, or even a male cultivator, the 13 seats in the demon world and even those little guys in seclusion may doubt their lives. Although the Fox clan is now in decline in the demon world, it once dominated the demon world. Its physique was once comparable to that of the Demon Queen and the first Demon King. If this physique is finally cultivated to the extreme by an East Continent cultivator, I don't know how the demon world will feel. Just as Luo Tan guessed, as time passed, several demon cultivators in the depths of the demon world were secretly watching what was happening in Yuzhou. I wonder how many tails Musian will eventually evolve to. The first seat raised her beautiful eyes, looked at the direction of Yuzhou, and couldn't help but whispered. If they were in Yuzhou, they would naturally find it difficult to detect the breath of ordinary cultivators. But Musian was emitting demonic energy at this moment, and he had the mark left by the queen of the demon world. Although she couldn't see what was happening in Yuzhou with her naked eyes, she could still vaguely capture the demonic energy that was gradually growing stronger in the depths of Daoka Palace. Every time this demonic energy became stronger, it meant that Musian was one step closer to the nine-tailed celestial fox. Compared to this, I am more worried about what Her Majesty will think after she knows about this. We handed the demon pill to King Di without asking her for permission. Is it really okay? In a corner of the long table, a creature with a hideous shape slowly spoke with a hoarse voice. Even though Musian was the person chosen by Her Majesty, it was Tegzapil. If any of them took it, their physique would not reach the level of Her Majesty, but at least they would be able to resonate with Tao in the future. Even in the demon world, 13 demon pills are extremely rare. After all, demon pills can only appear after demon cultivators have passed away. In the end, for a cultivator from Dongzhou, 13 demon pills were given. Yes, and it is not known whether His Majesty is just playing around with that little cultivator from Dongzhou or not. If he really gets promoted to the nine-tailed heavenly fox, it may become a big problem in the future. As soon as these words came out, several people nodded immediately. The first seat looked calm and said lightly, it will take some time for Her Majesty to retreat. During this period, the affairs outside will be handled by me and the ancient Emperor Longxiu. If Her Majesty blames you for this later, you can put all the responsibility on me. At this time, the man who had been silent in the corner slowly said, the Tegzapil can only make the demon cultivator's physique stronger, but whether it can evolve to the extreme depends on the individual. Do you think he can reproduce the glory of the nine-tailed sky fox in the past? As soon as these words came out, the original whispers also fell silent. That's right, taking it is taking it, but whether you can achieve the nine-tailed sky fox depends on Musian himself. It's not that no one in the Fox clan has tried to attack the nine-tailed in the past, but no demon cultivator has succeeded. What can a Dongzhou cultivator do to succeed? The high-level people in the demon world all looked at the table not far ahead. On the table, a bronze mirror quietly exuded a strange glow, and in that glow, the shadows of 4 foxtails were quietly shaking. "He already has 4 tails," someone whispered. "Don't worry, the main event is just beginning." The first seat's beautiful eyes flickered slightly, and she spoke softly with a hint of expectation. "Let me see if he is worthy of Her Majesty the Queen. In the demon world, talent is secondary, but bloodline means everything. If you are born noble, you are born superior. If Musian has not even reached the level of a 9-tailed celestial fox, even if Her Majesty the Queen chooses him, it will be a bit disappointing. In the demon world, these unruly demon cultivators are willing to bow down to the demon queen. Even the ancient Emperor Longxiu, who is also in harmony with the Tao, is under her. If the man Her Majesty the Queen chooses has a bloodline that is not as good as theirs, it is inevitable that people will doubt her vision. Oh, but it doesn't matter to Her Majesty, after all, she said before that she just wanted to hum him. But if Musian comes to the demon world in the future, I'm afraid he will be looked down upon. But if he has the blood of the 9-tailed fox, the cultivators in the demon world will probably have a different attitude. Well, maybe they will have some thoughts about Her Majesty's man at that time." The first seat stared at the bronze mirror with 4 foxtails, and his beautiful eyes flickered slightly. Musian had no idea what happened in the outside world at this moment. At this moment, he was immersed in the wonderful experience brought by Tegzudan. "At first, I thought refining the Tegzu pill would be the same as refining other pills. All I had to do was absorb its medicinal effects into the cauldron. But it seems that this 9th grade pill is completely different from other grades of pills. By the way, where exactly is this place?" After taking the Tegzu pill, Musian looked around at the empty space around him and couldn't help but whisper to himself. In the past, he had taken many pills, but those pills could be refined by activating spiritual energy. However, after taking this 9th grade Tegzu pill, his consciousness appeared in this strange place. At this time, Musian suddenly heard the sound of a bell in his ear. The bell seemed to have a kind of magic, attracting Musian's sight. He looked in the direction of the bell. In front of him was an endless green grassland, and near the grassland were all kinds of flowers, among which the blooming mandrake was the most charming. On the grass, the old tree held up the blue sky like a palm, and the sun shone through the branches and leaves. A pink-haired little girl leaned under the shade of the tree to enjoy the coolness. The wind moved the leaves, and the colorful light and shadow moved on her body, which was extremely beautiful. The only difference from the human monks was that the girl had a pair of very cute fox ears on her head. "Is this the place where the foxes in the demon world live? How did my consciousness come here? Also, who is this girl?" Musian quickly noticed the little girl. For some reason, she seemed to have an indescribable magic, which attracted Musian's attention involuntarily. The girl raised her head and looked at him, and then she showed a sweet smile. "Who is the big brother? Why would a human monk appear in such a place? Can you tell me?" she asked crisply, and Musian's beautiful eyes were full of innocence when she raised her eyes. Musian was in a trance for a moment, and almost subconsciously answered, "I am a 3-tailed fox. After taking the Tegzu pill, I don't know why I appeared here." After answering, Musian suddenly felt as if he saw a huge python in his mind, opening its mouth and rushing towards him, as if to swallow him in one bite. He shuddered and woke up suddenly. Then, as if realizing something, he bit the tip of his tongue lightly and stared at the little girl with fear. Something was wrong. Just now, he seemed to be completely controlled by the girl for a moment, and almost subconsciously answered her questions to please her. If it weren't for the mark left by the queen of the demon realm, he might have been silently controlled by the other party now. After calming down, Musian saw the little girl's side, as if there were countless strands of pink light entwined around her body, with a soft and quiet smile on her face, looking at him in surprise. "Oh! It recovered so quickly. It seems that Dong Zhou is not as bad as before." If she knows, she should be relieved. This woman is as dangerous as the queen of the demon realm. Musian maintained his composure and raised his hands respectfully to bow, saying, Junior Musian greets the senior. The next moment after the voice fell, Musian found that the space around him was quietly twisting as if the sky was spinning and the earth was spinning. After about an incense stick of time, a vast and surging spiritual consciousness like smoke and the sea descended silently. No, if you have to say it, it is not that spiritual consciousness descended, but that vast and sea-like spiritual consciousness emanated from the little girl's body. 2, 3, and finally 9 foxtails grew behind the girl. The foxtails swayed slowly in the endless grassland, but revealed an indescribable sense of weirdness. What has also changed is the woman's figure. Her body has grown from the original Lolita into a mature and sexy royal sister. She is wearing a fiery red gauze skirt and a pair of jade as white as rare jade. Foot. When he opened his eyes, the originally clear and beautiful eyes were replaced by seductive charm. Immediately afterwards, a delicate laughter like a silver bell echoed in the space, with a magical power that made the heart beat faster. She is the nine-tailed sky fox, a former powerful person in the Hedeo realm of the Fox clan. Musian reacted almost immediately. The woman in the red dress turned her head to look, her eyes filled with light that could confuse all living beings, and she chuckled, I didn't expect that the one who refined the Tegzapil was not a demon cultivator from my Fox clan, but a human cultivator from Dongzhou. Are you the son of a fox demon and a human monk? She asked. Musian shook his head and said, it just happened that due to some chance, I accidentally obtained the body of a three-tailed fox. The woman in the red dress didn't seem surprised. She walked over with her 9 foxtails wagging, looked down at the young man in front of her, and said with a sweet smile, it seems that your little monk is very lucky. Not only did you get the physique of my fox clan, but where did I find the Tegzapil? The seniors have conquered the country and the city with their extraordinary talents, but the juniors feel inferior to them. Musian raised his hands and bowed, and said very respectfully, although I have taken Tegzapil, I am here for some reason. I don't know what to do now. I hope my senior can give me some advice. Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. The woman in the red dress chuckled and said, there was a time when the Fox clan was prosperous. At that time, it was even able to compete with the first-generation demon emperor at its peak. However, it gradually declined due to my fall. In its final decline, the Fox clan used the power and resources of the whole clan to refine a Tegzapil and gave it to the genius of the Fox clan, hoping that she could regain her former glory, but in the end she only evolved to the 8 tails finally died sadly. Is the 9-tailed sky fox so difficult to cultivate? Musian asked hesitantly. There was a faint smile on the face of the woman in the red dress, but she did not answer, and said to herself, after that, the members of the Fox clan defected to the major demon clans one after another, and obtained a large amount of resources, but they never appeared again. Pass the second 9-tailed sky fox. You might as well guess why. If I knew, would I still need to ask you? Musian pondered for a moment and said, this junior has heard that whether one can evolve into a 9-tailed celestial fox depends on whether one of his ancestors has been in the Hedeo realm. If there were demon cultivators, it might be relatively easy. She gently lifted up a strand of hair that fell from her ear and glanced at Musian with a charming look, that's true, but it's not entirely like that. The 9 foxtail shadows behind her slowly swayed, and she smiled charmingly, if you are in other demon clans, maybe your ancestors have great powers, and it will be easier to evolve after taking the Tegzapil, but it is not necessarily the case in the Fox clan. After all, every monster clan is bound to have only one Hedeo realm. The moment these words were spoken, Musian's body froze slightly. Then, his brain was running at a high speed, as if he had thought of something important. His pupils widened slightly, staring at the charming woman. A demon clan can only reach one level of Hideo. Is it possible that the same is true for the physique? Because the Fox clan has already given birth to a nine-tailed sky fox, so there cannot be a second nine-tailed sky fox? The woman in the red dress was laughing so hard that her sexy figure was as plump as a peach. She glanced at him with a charming eye and said softly, "You are quite smart." There seemed to be countless charms in his voice, just like a woman reaching out to hold him gently in her arms and caring for him carefully. There was a kind of magic that made people intoxicated. Unless I give up my position, there will be no second nine-tailed fox in the Fox clan in the future. Similarly, it's impossible for you to be promoted to Kuwabai. At this moment, Musian finally understood. No wonder the Fox clan has been in decline for so long, and even the Fox clan is scattered among the major demon clans in search of cultivation resources. The second nine-tailed sky fox has not appeared in the past 10,000 years. Now everything makes sense. If the woman in front of me doesn't give up her position, no matter how hard the other Fox clan practices, they won't be able to reach the nine-tails level. Musian asked calmly, if this junior is not mistaken, what the senior has left in this world is just a broken spiritual consciousness, right? Could it be that the senior still has some unfulfilled wishes? If possible, this junior hopes to do his part. The nine-tailed sky fox chuckled, "You little monk has your heart, but even if you know my purpose, there is nothing you can do about it. Let me leave here while I am in a good mood today. After a while, I may change my mind." The seductive and gentle voice, combined with the charming appearance, made Musian's heart beat faster uncontrollably. Musian dared to swear that he was definitely not like this because of the other person's figure or appearance, but because of the indescribable charm of the other person. Every move seemed to reveal enough charm to make people obsessed and even willing to surrender. Fortunately, Musian has been in a sage mode in the past few days, so he barely maintained his composure, raised his hands and bowed. If this junior guessed correctly, although the senior has died, his spiritual consciousness has remained. It still exists somewhere in Kyushu. This junior can promise that I will find your spiritual consciousness in the future and allow my senior to return to Kyushu in his true form. The nine-tailed sky fox narrowed his eyes. Why do you think I trust a human from Dongzhou? Based on this. As if he had already guessed what the other party would say, Musian smiled gently and reached out to hold the woman's hand. The nine-tailed sky fox trembled slightly. She wanted to scold this boy who was so disrespectful to her, but after noticing the spiritual energy in his body, her beautiful eyes immediately became a little brighter, and she almost subconsciously said, "It's you, it turns out to be you." There was a bit of surprise, relief, and joy in that tone. Musian was stunned. "Senior, do you know me?" The nine-tailed sky fox seemed to be aware of her gaffe. She stroked a strand of hair and explained, "When I counted the time for my own incarnation, I wanted to burn my essence at the end and try to break into the realm of immortality. Road. Until that day, a guest from the Fox clan came. She made an agreement with me and swore that if I stay as the nine-tailed sky fox, someone will help me to be reborn in the future, and even become an ascension. At first I thought the other party was lying to me, but now it seems." The nine-tailed fox stared at him faintly. She did not lie. Musian was stunned for a moment. In the past, someone made an agreement with the nine-tailed sky fox who was about to be reborn, promising that someone would come to save her in the future? For some reason, he subconsciously thought of a woman's face. The nine-tailed sky fox looked at Musian carefully and pursed his lips and smiled, "But I really didn't expect that there would be a Dongzhou monk who was born with the body of a furnace and took the Taegzi pill. It's really interesting. Since it's you, there's no harm in handing over the position of Nine-Tails to you." Musian was overjoyed, but thought of something and immediately asked, "Senior, how can I find your sleeping spiritual consciousness in the future?" "I have no idea. The nine-tailed sky fox admired the young man's appearance and said, "My broken spiritual consciousness memory is missing after all. However, before I passed away, I had arranged a backup plan in Dongzhou. I think my spiritual consciousness should be preserved in Dongzhou now among a certain family in Asia." "Are there any other clues?" Musian asked. "In the past, I left a lot of natural treasures for that family. If nothing else happens, now they should be a worthy ancient family in Dongzhou. You can go to the land of the Fox clan in the demon world. There are the soul-locking bell I left behind will help you find the place where your spiritual consciousness is preserved. The land of the Fox clan is one of Ruoxi's hometowns, and it should be deserted now." Musian looked at this charming woman in a long skirt, nodded slightly, and said, "Junior will definitely do it as soon as possible. Find the soul-locking bell and bring the senior back to life as soon as possible." The nine-tailed sky fox hummed. Her figure was disappearing. At the same time, the tail behind her was gradually decreasing, and the light in her beautiful eyes was also gradually fading away. And the strands of pink light on his body also quietly entered Musian's body. Boom! Almost at the same time, from the depths of Daoka Palace in Yuzhou, pink demonic energy soared into the sky. In the sky above the palace, 9 phantoms of foxtails appeared, swaying slowly. Yao Menmei's eyes narrowed, staring in that direction, and whispered, "Did it really succeed?" The pink demonic energy soared into the sky like a beam of light, and within the beam of light, the shadows of 9 foxtails seemed to cover up most of the sky. Luo Tan's beautiful eyes flickered slightly, and she said to herself, "Nine-tailed sky fox, has he really completely absorbed the Taigzi pill?" At this moment, she felt relieved, and soon became a little more expectant. What will the natural furnace cauldron and the naturally charming body look like? Also, after this, Musian can switch forms at any time. Wei Mengru's beautiful eyes also twinkled, and she couldn't wait to go in and see her young master, but in the end she held back. "Yeah, be a little more reserved." At the same time, in the dim room where Musian was retreating, candle light flickered. And in the flickering candle light, the faint shadows of 9 foxtails spread out silently like a peacock's tail, swaying slowly. Then at the next moment, Musian slowly opened his eyes. There was a strange pink light in those deep eyes. The overwhelming demonic energy soared into the sky and could be felt even as far away as the demon world. At this moment, located in the deepest part of the demon realm palace, a graceful and luxurious woman in a gorgeous purple dress suddenly opened her charming eyes and stared in a certain direction in the distance. After a long time, there was a trace of interest in her beautiful scarlet eyes, and she whispered to herself, "Nine-tailed fox." Unexpectedly, during his retreat, a second demon cultivator with the same bloodline as himself was born. Moreover, the place of birth is actually in Yuzhou. What happened during the period of seclusion? The queen of the demon realm whispered, "Miao Yan." Almost at the same time, the first seat in the demon palace reacted and immediately got up and rushed over. After nearly half a quarter of an hour, the first seat arrived at this quiet cave. "Your Majesty, why did you come out of retreat early?" The first seat hesitated and asked tentatively. "Your Majesty should still be in retreat to break through the realm of Yahua, why did you come out early?" The essence of the first generation of Demon King has been refined, and after that, I can try to ascend to Yahua and break the shackles of heaven and earth. The queen of the demon realm paused and continued, "Compared to this, I have something to ask you. When I was in retreat before, the demonic energy of the nine-tailed sky fox was soaring to the sky. What happened? If I remember correctly, there shouldn't be a second nine-tailed sky fox in the fox clan. There is only one Hedeo realm in a demon clan. This secret is only known by the queen of the demon realm and several Hedeo realms. Others do not know the secret. Also, who made the Taigzi pill?" The first seat immediately reacted and said respectfully, "To answer your Majesty, some time ago, the medicine emperor of Yuzhou personally made a Taigzi pill." The queen of the demon realm narrowed her scarlet eyes and sneered. In the past, I had asked the medicine emperor to make a Tegzapil, but she refused in every way, saying that she was not strong enough to make it. Now she can make it? Which demon cultivator took the Tegzapil and was able to ask the medicine emperor to make it? The queen of the demon realm continued to ask. The first seed hesitated, looked at the queen of the demon realm who exuded a charming aura, and hesitated. It's Musian. The voice in the hall stagnated, and the queen of the demon realm's narrow and beautiful eyes widened a little, reflecting the figure of a respectful maid in her scarlet eyes. Musian. Today's 7,000 words are finished, a new week of asking for votes and encouragement. I would also like to recommend a book. This is an old author, you can take a look, here is the link. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. So, they were the protagonists all along. Author, CCC. Chapter 419. That night, the pink demonic energy almost covered most of the night in Daoka Palace. Even in some holy places under this dynasty, you can see the pink mist exuding a charming halo. The pink mist is full of charming atmosphere, and it is also mixed with the special spiritual energy in the natural furnace that is enough to attract countless female cultivators. The demonic aura alone contains such a charm that enchants all living beings. It is hard to imagine what kind of terrifying charm the owner of this pink demonic aura has at this moment. At this moment, in a small closed room, the maid Gansui was standing in the confinement room, raising her head and staring at the night in the distance, subconsciously tightening her skirt. Nine-tailed sky fox, he actually evolved into a nine-tailed sky fox. She said in a tone full of disbelief, resentment, and jealousy. So I have reminded you before that Musian is not a good person. Since His Majesty is interested in him, no matter how others try to persuade him, it will be useless. You have been serving His Majesty for several years. Why can't you even think of such a thing? Clear. Outside the confinement room, the maid in a dress, Jing 11, spoke quietly. She was the first maid to follow Luotan, and it would be no exaggeration to say that she managed all the servants in this immortal dynasty. Before that, she went to Liangyi sect with His Majesty Luotan, and met Musian a few months ago. Jing 11 thought she was very accurate in reading people. Although Musian, a young monk, had not been practicing for a long time, his skills were very good. Xiao Hua will die because he exposed his identity, but Your Majesty values feelings. If he stays with Your Majesty for a while longer, Your Majesty may not kill him even if his identity is exposed in the future. However, he was guided step by Musian until he finally died in the Liangyi sect. She had seen that Gansui didn't like Musian a few days ago and had warned her in advance, but she was still like this. What a pity that the forces behind Gansui have worked hard for so many years. The maids who can serve the medicine emperor are bound to be the most talented ones from the major holy places in Yuzhou. But great talent does not mean that your IQ is on the line. Now Musian is a popular person around His Majesty. You, a maid, are secretly making things difficult for him. It would be strange if he doesn't punish you. I'm not wrong. The nine-tailed sky fox charms all living beings. Your Majesty has never been interested in any man in the past, but you have chosen him. Isn't it because of his three-tailed fox body? Gansui snorted coldly and said, before, he was able to confuse His Majesty when he was still a three-tailed fox. Now that he has been promoted to a nine-tailed sky fox, he still doesn't know what he will do to confuse His Majesty. Jing 11's expression changed slightly, and she said through the voice, don't say nonsense. If Your Majesty hears these words, I'm afraid you won't just be put in solitary confinement. There are many benefits to following the Medicine King. In Yuzhou, even being the maid next to the Medicine King is a position coveted by countless people. After all, following a heavenly alchemist, Your future achievements will definitely be high. The Holy Land behind Gansui had put in a lot of effort to get this quota. Gansui stopped talking, but his eyes were a little more angry and dissatisfied. Even if she is at fault, doesn't Musian have 100% responsibility? I don't know what Musian was doing to His Majesty a few days ago. His Majesty summoned her to the palace 2 days ago, and the servants next to His Majesty listed a bunch of her crimes. Although they were not serious, Luo Tan was. He removed her position and shut herself up in this confinement room to think about her past. A guy who has nothing but his face and relies on His Majesty's favor to act unscrupulously. When your Majesty gets tired of you. Oh. Although I have been mentally prepared for a long time, it still feels amazing after I actually turned into a nine-tailed fox. Musian sat cross-legged on the couch, breathed a long sigh of relief, looked at his recovered hands, and whispered to himself. The Tegzapil is a method used to connect with the deceased ancestors of the demon clan and obtain their demon throne. If the demon clan has not produced the great power of Hideo, it will have the opportunity to sit on that throne by itself, thus allowing the physique to evolve to extreme. But if the monster clan once produced a powerful Hideo master, whether the physique can evolve to the extreme depends on whether the ancestor of the monster clan has died. If he had not died, other demon cultivators would have had no chance to join the path. This is simply forcing the demon cultivator to backstab his ancestor. After sorting out his thoughts, Musian couldn't help but complain in his heart. Nine-tailed sky fox, I don't know where that woman's spiritual consciousness is. It seems that she will have to go to the demon world after this. But there are more important things to deal with right now. Musian raised his head and looked outside the secret room. Even in the secret room, he could vaguely hear the slight commotion coming from outside the palace. There has been such a big commotion, and I don't know what is going on outside now. Musian was about to walk out of the secret room, but suddenly he noticed that 9 foxtails seemed to appear behind him, swaying slowly under the candlelight. He released a trace of his will, and the next moment, the 9 foxtails returned to his body like shadows in the flickering candlelight. After walking out of the secret room, there were noisy sounds outside the palace. Many monks in Daoka Palace subconsciously wanted to use their spiritual senses to find out what was going on inside. However, because the servants around Luo Tan had just told His Majesty to retreat inside. Don't disturb, so everyone held back. But even so, people still care. After all, the evil spirit almost covered most of the night, and many people were very afraid and confused, and they didn't understand what happened. At this moment, Luo Tan, Yao Meng, and Wei Mengru were sitting on chairs not far away in the hall. Sensing that the young master had walked out of the secret room, Wei Mengru raised her head and looked over first, saying, "It seems that you have really successfully promoted to the 9-tailed heavenly fox." Musian nodded and smiled, "This is all thanks to you protecting me." His eyes looked at the Empress in a noble white dress again. She was sitting in front of the chair at this moment, her left leg resting on her right leg, swinging her black silk legs, and looking at the boy with clear and beautiful eyes. "Thank you, Senior Yehuang, for refining the Tegzapil for me." Musian smiled gently. "I just refined the Tegzapil for you, but whether you can evolve to the 9-tailed heavenly fox depends on your own talent." Luo Tan was obviously in a very good mood, and his beautiful eyes looked at the white-robed boy with great interest. Then he hesitated, looked at his face a few more times, and said hesitantly, "What's the matter with the pink light on your body? Can't it be restrained?" Musian was startled and looked down at his body. It was not until then that he realized that his body was covered with a layer of faint pink light. Musian hesitated and said, "Sister Mengru, can you give me a bronze mirror?" Wei Mengru hummed, stood up and took out a bronze mirror from the ring, walked to the young master and handed it to him. Musian glanced at himself in the bronze mirror, and he couldn't see his appearance clearly. It was a bit similar to the faint glow on Yao Meng's body, giving people a sense of ambiguity that was close and far away and difficult to see clearly. Is this also one of the abilities of the nine-tailed fox? Is this playing with mystery? Musian muttered, and then restrained the pink light completely. It went very smoothly. It seems that this magic is quite convenient. Now, in addition to the black fog method, there is another method to hide one's own breath. Musian just thought of this, but found that Wei Mengru was looking at him infatuatedly. What's wrong? Has my face turned into a fox's head? Musian's heart sank, and he immediately reached out to touch his face. There was no furry touch, but Wei Mengru's always cold and beautiful face was involuntarily flushed, and she lowered her eyes slightly and dared not look at the young master again. Yao Meng and Luo Tan looked at each other, and saw doubts in each other's eyes. They immediately stood up and walked closer to look at the young man. And this look made the two great masters in the Hedeo realm stunned. At this moment, Musian appeared in the vision of the three people. He had a straight posture, a handsome face, a high nose, clear eyes, and a perfect curve of his lips. Although there is no overall change, it always gives people a sense of flawless perfection, and the temperament is full of an inexplicable charm, which always attracts people's attention. Is this the effect of Tegzupil? Yao Meng's rosy little mouth opened slightly, and her beautiful eyes looked at the beautiful boy in front of her in astonishment. She stared at him and was a little absent-minded for a while. She believed that he took some kind of elixir to change his appearance. Luo Tan was also a little surprised, and her eyes stayed on his face for a long time. Even though she had seen all kinds of proud sons of heaven in this non-cultivation dynasty in the past, she had never seen such a good-looking face. The most important thing is that his temperament always has an inexplicable magic that attracts people. But in order to avoid being suspected by the Green Emperor, Luo Tan quickly turned away his eyes like a deception. Don't worry, there's plenty of time to enjoy it slowly after this. Have I changed so much? My face is just a little more delicate, and there's no other change, Musian complained in his heart, but he couldn't help but feel happy when he noticed that the three beauties were all completely attracted. Sister Mengru, what's wrong? Musian asked deliberately. Wei Mengru woke up in a trance, raised her beautiful eyes and glanced at the boy, with a faint blush on her face, and said, No, nothing, you should go take a bath quickly, you're sweating. Probably because of taking Tegzupil and evolving to the extreme of three-tailed fox, Musian was reborn during this period. Even if he doesn't use spiritual energy now, his physical body can fight against cultivators of the same realm. Although there are still many questions I want to ask Luo Tan and Yao Meng, such as the past of the nine-tailed fox, etc., but this posture is indeed not suitable for sitting down and chatting. So, Musian quickly followed Luo Tan's signal and was led by his servant to the bath for a medicinal bath. In the misty bath, Musian lazily leaned against the corner of the bath, stretched his waist, and then took out a bronze mirror from the ring and looked at the young man in the mirror. Delicate and handsome facial features, soft hair, fair skin, and a pair of dark pupils revealing an indescribable charm. Handsome, so handsome from any angle. Musian put the bronze mirror aside with emotion, and couldn't help but admire it from the bottom of his heart. It's not that he is narcissistic, but after taking Tegzudan, his appearance has indeed skyrocketed a lot. The most important thing is that the temperament exuded from his body will involuntarily attract the attention of the opposite sex. It's too perfect, this is more immersive than before. Musian leaned back on the edge of the bathtub, stretched his waist, and enjoyed the hot spring bath. Nearly half an hour later, he suddenly vaguely seemed to hear approaching footsteps coming from behind. Turning around, I saw in the mist, a woman in a white dress, wearing snow-white boots, walked into the bathtub with luxurious and elegant steps. The Tegzupil can transform a demon cultivator. Although I have known this for a long time, it is still a bit unexpected that the Tegzupil can have an effect on even the Dongzhou cultivators. Sister Luo, are you really okay just breaking into someone else's bathhouse like this? Muzian said reservedly, "This is all thanks to your majesty. If it weren't for the Tegzapil, I'm afraid I would still be in the same boyish form now. Not to mention evolving into a nine-tailed sky fox." When he said this, he couldn't help but look at the woman standing by the bathtub. It seemed that because she was going to the bathhouse, she was not wearing the usual black silk stockings that revealed her snow-white skin. Under the layered and complicated white skirt, she had a pair of bare white and delicate legs. She bent down slightly and took off one of her white legs. Boots. Sensing Muzian's involuntarily attracted gaze, Luo Tan inadvertently evoked a faint smile. She leaned down slightly and said jokingly, "You don't mind if I sit next to you for a while? Your Majesty, Sister Kingdi, and the others should still be outside. It would be better not to do this," Muzian said reservedly. Although he was a little moved, he was a qualified fish pond owner and would not make such a low-level mistake. It would be difficult if Yao Meng came in later and saw it. "Is it possible to tell her that Sister Luo came to the bath just now to help me heal my wounds? She is born with a furnace body, and her own constitution can be said to be a unique elixir in the world. If she comes in to take a bath, I will be in the bathtub. Take a medicinal bath." Luo Tan bent down and took off the other snow-white boot, looked at the young man with a slight smile, and said, "I have told Qing Emperor and the original witch before that after you refine the Tegzapil today, you still need to take it again. Only when the elixir is completely refined can the Tegzadan be completely refined. So, I'll take you to my chambers in a moment." Muzian was stunned. "I should have refined the Tegzapil now, and even been promoted to the nine-tailed sky fox. Why do I need any more pills?" His words paused, and he seemed to understand something as he looked at the beauty sitting by the bathing pool with her jade-white feet dangling. "The natural furnace cauldron itself is the best elixir. Speaking of which, now that I can see through a person's weaknesses, does it mean that I can also see through a person's weaknesses in the Lian Dao realm?" Muzian suddenly had a thought and secretly activated the magic. A flash of pink light flashed across his dark eyes. He stared at the woman who was tying her long hair into two strands and playing with the water with her toes. Luo Tan glanced sideways and suddenly smiled brightly. "What's wrong? The words are full of teasing, like a big sister teasing a boy." Muzian put a hand on her beautiful leg, then stood up and leaned close to her ear, breathing softly. "What is your Majesty's weakness?" The graceful Yao Wang's delicate body trembled slightly, and he moved his body quickly and very sensitively. He stared at Muzian in surprise. "How did you know?" "I am super, her weak point is really her ears." Muzian was a little shocked. Damn it, this nine-tailed sky fox can see through the weaknesses of the Dao realm. Although he knew that Luo Tan might not have any defense in front of him, so it went so smoothly, but if this magic is used properly, it can even play a huge role in actual combat. I wonder what the weaknesses of Yao Meng and Sister Mengru are. Well, let's try it later. When Muzian thought of this, he quickly restrained his thoughts. He glanced at a maid standing vaguely outside the bath, and suddenly asked out of curiosity, "By the way, why don't you see Sister Amisui?" Luo Tan's pretty face still had the blush from being teased by Muzian. Hearing this, she calmed down a little and frowned. "Do you still remember that maid? Didn't she only have a relationship with you once?" Muzian shook his head and said, "I don't know for sure. I just think she is quite beautiful and seems to be only slightly inferior to His Majesty. That's why I have some impression. Where is she now?" Luo Tan said calmly, "Gansui's performance is pretty good, so I asked her to go back and rest for a few days." Muzian snorted and nodded slightly. "No wonder I haven't seen her for a while." "Why did you suddenly think of her?" Luo Tan asked. "Sister Gansui talked to me about a lot of things that day and treated me very well, so I thought that if possible, I hope to see her before leaving Yuzhou." Luo Tan raised her eyebrows slightly and glanced at him lightly. "You are still thinking about other women in front of me. Should I say that you are too carefree, or is the mate of that person in your mouth really charming enough for you to care so much? Musian was startled, then suddenly woke up, and said hurriedly, "Sorry, that's not what I meant. With you by my side, I will naturally be satisfied and have nothing else to ask for." After saying that, he hesitated for a moment and continued in a low voice, "Your Majesty, please do not blame Sister Gansui for this matter, otherwise this junior may have uneasy conscience in the future." Luo Tan nodded slightly, with a somewhat thoughtful look in his eyes. "I see. Then will this junior be able to see Sister Gansui before leaving?" Musian asked hesitantly. "She's very busy, I'm afraid she doesn't have time to see you," she said softly. "Is that so? That's a pity." Musian showed a trace of regret. The boy's every move was in the eyes of the Medicine Emperor. She looked at Musian and the special charm he exuded at this moment, and her eyebrows were slightly raised. "Compared to this matter, you have refined the Tegzapil now, but there is only one last step to be considered perfect." Luo Tan licked her delicate lips and stepped directly into the bath. The medicinal bath soaked the luxurious white dress bit by bit. Musian had a premonition in his heart. He raised his head and stared at the luxurious woman in the bath. "In fact, we don't have to go back to the palace to start again." She gently placed one hand on the back of Musian's hand and put her seductive red lips close to his ear. "It's nice here, isn't it? Mr. Mew has become even more handsome, and the author feels more involved when typing." So, they were the protagonists all along. Author, CCC. Chapter 420. Dongzhou, Lan Family. In front of a certain attic of the Lan family, Lan Pingzi, wearing a green robe, stood on the observation deck, looking far away, looking at the faint wisp of smoke that was vaguely emerging. In the smoke, 9 foxtails slowly opened, each of which was shining and charming. Nine-tailed Sky Fox. He stood straight, his green robe fluttering in the wind, and stared at the bubble-like, illusory, and beautiful figure with complicated eyes. Beside him, 2 old men put their hands behind their backs and looked up. In the corner, Lan Wu, the young master of the Lan family, was standing beside the clan leader and 2 powerful elders in the clan, looking extremely respectful. Although he was like a minion among the elders, the position of the future head of the Lan family would be inherited by Lan Wu. The 9-tailed Sky Fox has long fallen, and I didn't expect that a new 9-tailed Sky Fox would appear now. It's really surprising, the elder of the Lan family sighed. The inheritance of the demon race is quite strict. Unless the previous demon ancestor dies and gives up the throne, the bodies of the demons of the next generation cannot evolve to the extreme. How did the other party do it? The elder next to him questioned. Lan Pingzi shook his head slightly and said, "Perhaps the 9-tailed Sky Fox has thought it through and will give the demon seed to someone later." The elder of the Lan family snorted and interrupted lightly, "The 9-tailed Sky Fox has nothing to do with us. Compared to this, Lan Wu, have you heard anything about the letter you sent to Lianji Peak some time ago?" Lan Wu nodded slightly. "My sisters have replied to the letter a few days ago and will come back on the day of the ancestral worship meeting." The third elder on the side couldn't help but snorted coldly when he heard this. "We have to ask them to come back to the Lan family again and again, and we even hit a wall several times. If you don't know, you might think that they have resonated with the Tao and entered the state of harmony with the Tao." Lan Wu explained for the 2 sisters, "There were indeed many misunderstandings between our Lan family and them at the beginning, and there was nothing we could do about it. I think when they come to the Lan family, they will know the elders' painstaking efforts. That would be the best." The 2 elders were obviously not in a good mood, snorted coldly, and left with a wave of their sleeves. Lan Pingzi looked up at the faint pink light under the night sky, shook his head helplessly, and turned to leave the observation tower. Although he is the head of the Lan family, he has not been the head of the family for a long time. He still has to be respectful to the elders of the Elders' Council, otherwise he would not have been forced to place his pregnant Taoist partner outside. Seeing this, Lan Wu also showed a trace of helplessness and sighed secretly. The ancient family is good in everything, but this is not good. These powerful elders have too long lifespans and hold power in their hands. If they are unwilling to give up power, even if they become the head of the Lan family in the future, they will still be controlled by others. Unfortunately, many of these elders are more pedantic, and it is difficult to change their minds once they have determined something. If the two sisters come to the Lan family this time, I am afraid that they will cause a lot of trouble. And because it is a family matter, Lianji sect is not easy to intervene, unless the Lan family really goes too far. If possible, he didn't really want them to come back. It might be better if someone secretly protected them. When thinking of this, Lan Wu thought of the boy he met some time ago for no reason. Although Musian seemed to have a close relationship with many girls, now that the Green Emperor has ascended to heaven, and Musian and her are Taoist companions, if he were to accompany her. Lan Wu quickly shook his head and dispelled the messy thoughts in his mind. Musian and Mulian are indeed close, but Musian may not wade into this muddy water. After all, the Green Emperor may not let his lover wade into this muddy water. When he thought of this, he quickly gathered his thoughts, shook his head and sighed, and finally raised his head to look at the vaguely emerging nine-tailed phantom in the distance, and the pink light that almost dyed most of the night red, and turned down the observation deck. How can she understand my XP so well? At this moment, Musian naturally didn't know that the elder brother-in-law of the Lan family who was far away in Dongzhou was actually thinking about him. He was leaning in the bathtub, staring at this beautiful woman in her prime, and didn't know what to say for a while. The white mist in the bathtub was hazy, and the elegantly dressed medicine emperor leaned against him very casually and naturally. The elegant dress inlaid with gold and silver threads was soaked by the medicinal bath, and the ends of her hair combed into two ponytails were also stained with some water stains. The water droplets fell on the medicinal bath along the ends of her hair, rippling, and Musian's originally calm state of mind was also rippling. It must be said that Musian thought he was already a qualified old driver, but he still ignored this way of playing. It was simply hard to refuse. However, there was still too high a risk in this place. After all, if Yao Meng found that he hadn't come out for too long, even if it was to confirm his safety, he would come in to check after a while. I know what you're thinking. At this time, Luo Tan suddenly spoke slowly. She walked slowly in the water with her bare white jade feet. The next moment, she was in front of Musian. She raised her slender white jade hand from the water, stroked Musian's face, and smiled with narrowed eyes. The agreement between you and me is ultimately lacking some romance here. Besides, if you can refine your spirit and return to the void and then practice with me, the effect will be much better. What do you mean by tempting me now? You can flirt with me unscrupulously just because you are in the Hedeo realm. Musian stared at the gorgeous beauty who was so close to him and said, didn't you say before that if I practice with you, I can refine my spirit and return to the void in a short time? Luo Tan said lightly, the intimate contact between the natural furnace and the natural furnace, the spiritual energy brought by the first time is the most concentrated. If I practice with you now, you will naturally be able to reach the peak of refining the spirit immediately, and the excess spiritual energy will become the nourishment between heaven and earth. She raised her hand to hold up a strand of hair, her wet and gorgeous dress clung to her skin, and she raised her beautiful eyes full of moisture, her eyes full of smiles. But if you return to the void, you can open up a cave in your own furnace, and by then the size of your furnace will be more than 100 times the current size. What do you think will happen if you practice dual cultivation at that time? Musian was slightly enlightened. He understood what Luo Tan said. The first time that Tianzhengluding and Tianzhengluding practice together, a huge amount of spiritual energy will flow into his body, and this spiritual energy alone can make him reach the peak of soul refining. In the short term, it is indeed exciting. But if he waits until he returns to the void realm to practice with him, The huge spiritual energy given to him by Luo Tan will not be wasted at all, but will be absorbed by his cauldron. The physique of Tianzhengluding is too outrageous. It means that as long as you find a female cultivator with Tianzhengluding to practice with, both parties can get a considerable amount of spiritual energy increase for the first time, and there will be a continuous increase effect afterwards. Muzian couldn't help but sigh secretly. But soon, he shook his head and rejected the previous idea. No, it's not that Tianzhengluding can have such an effect, but Tianzhengluding in the Hedao realm can do so. And the only Tianzhengluding in the Hedao realm currently known in Zhuzhou is Luo Tan. But who in this world can force her except her own will? She can force others, just like this now. Yao Meng and Wei Mengru were still drinking tea in the palace, while the Empress of the Immortal Dynasty secretly entered the bath and even appeared in front of Muzian in this posture. However, since it is not the best time to be intimate with her, why does she dress so seductively? Is she deliberately teasing me? Muzian was visibly disappointed and said, if that's the case, then why did your majesty come to me today? Seeing Muzian like this, Luo Tan immediately gave him a charming roll of the eyes and said lightly, you don't have to be so disappointed. It's just that you can't practice dual cultivation for the time being, but it doesn't mean that you can't do anything else. The Tiansheng furnace can absorb a certain amount of the medicinal effect of the Taixu pill. Your current Tiansheng furnace may have been affected by the nine-tailed sky fox, so it is now emitting such a charming aura. I am full of charming aura now. Muzian was stunned. As the saying goes, those who are involved are confused. He himself didn't feel any changes in his current Tiansheng furnace at all. The only thing he knew was that he became more handsome. Soon after, Muzian reacted and subconsciously raised his head and said, so, your majesty is here today. Now being intimate with Muzian, Luo Tan will not get any benefits. She just had the urge to be intimate with Muzian simply because of Muzian's nine-tailed fox body. Before Muzian finished speaking, Luo Tan had already stood up and walked out of the bathtub, wearing a white dress that fit her graceful figure tightly, and water drops dripped along her skirt and fell on the ground along her snow-white skin. Under the skirt, a pair of plump snow-white long legs were highlighted. She glanced slightly sideways, and her beautiful face was embellished with light makeup. When she noticed the boy's gaze, she half crouched by the bathtub, and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but raise a teasing arc. Guess. The voice with a hint of teasing temptation came from the mouth of the Empress, who was always noble and elegant. At this moment, she was looking down at the beautiful scenery from a high place, which had a strong visual impact. In fact, it was not only Muzian who was attracted by Luo Tan at the moment. Just as Muzian guessed, the Medicine King also cared about Muzian at the moment. When he spoke, the Medicine King could not help but look at Muzian several times. Although Muzian's appearance did not change much after his transformation, his facial features were much more delicate, and his temperament had also changed greatly, and he looked better overall. The most important thing was that although the body of the nine-tailed sky fox had been restrained, it still exuded an irresistible charm all the time. She was naturally able to resist this charm, but she still couldn't help but be a little concerned about Muzian's posture after he evolved into the body of the nine-tailed sky fox. Muzian pondered for a moment, and smiled as if he knew the answer. Could it be that you are worried about whether my body has recovered, so you come to confirm it? Luo Tan snorted lightly, grabbed Muzian's wrist with one hand, and then pulled him out of the bathtub. Before he could speak, she placed one hand on Muzian's chest, and the next moment, her red lips touched his lips. Muzian's heart tightened at first, and he subconsciously glanced around the bathtub. It was empty, without a single figure. The next moment, the warm breath gently blew on his face and lingered at the tip of his nose. Muzian gradually entered the state and boldly hugged the waist of the Yuzhou Empress. But before Muzian could even savor it carefully, Luo Tan had already gently pushed him away. Let's go back to my bedroom first. Luo Tan hooked her hands around Muzian's neck, with a hint of charm in her smile, although it's not the time for dual cultivation yet. Dual cultivation is not the only way in the world to feel each other's natural furnace. She gently tapped Musian's chest with one hand and whispered, "The medicinal bath lasts for half an hour. As long as you go back during this period, no one will notice it, okay?" Half an hour later. The bedroom was filled with a sweet fragrance, and a smokeless charcoal fire was burning at the foot of the bed, warming this bedroom filled with ambiguity at the moment. On the luxurious and soft bed, Luo Tan took the white robe handed over by the boy and put it on casually. She raised her beautiful eyes and looked at the boy, chuckling, "I didn't expect you to like this style." Musian shook his head reservedly and said, "Your Majesty misunderstood. This is just based on my mood, not that I like this style." "Oh." Luo Tan raised her eyebrows slightly, lowered her eyes slightly, swung her white feet, and smiled, "If I remember correctly, you have always liked to stare at my legs before? Although it is not conspicuous, I am very sensitive to other people's eyes. Actually, there is nothing wrong with this. After all, I don't hate it." She paused and continued, "The physique of the nine-tailed heavenly fox is indeed combined with the natural furnace. If you want, you can even create a second nine-tailed heavenly fox after this." Musian nodded silently. After the nine-tailed heavenly fox handed the demon throne to Musian, it stands to reason that he inherited the unique demon throne. However, the Tiansheng furnace absorbed part of the efficacy of the Tegzapil, and could even feed back the efficacy to other demon cultivators. If he wanted, Musian could even share the demon throne with others. "It won't be long before you return to the Void Realm." Luo Tan licked her red lips, stepped on her snow-white boots and walked to the side of the young man, tiptoed slightly, leaned over his ear, and whispered, "After returning to the Void Realm, come to me as soon as possible. But this time it was my sister who helped you, but next time, it will be your time to repay me." Musian raised his hand and bowed, saying, "It is my honor that His Majesty can choose me. There is no such thing as repaying or not repaying. I am willing to serve His Majesty." Luo Tan looked at him quietly with her beautiful eyes, and suddenly chuckled, "Then next time, please my sister well." She lowered her head slightly, and her delicate and beautiful red lips gently kissed Musian's lips. "Try every possible way to please." The fragrance of her lips seemed to still linger on her lips, but Luo Tan had already put on a luxurious long dress and went to Yaoxin Palace to review memorials and deal with the matter of Gan Sui, the maid beside her. "Really good, Sister Luo, tastes really good." Late at night, Musian left the palace with a refreshed spirit and went straight to the palace where he had been in seclusion before. It should be said that she is worthy of being in the Hedao realm, and Yuzhou is obviously more open than Dongzhou and other places. This empress looks noble and elegant on the surface, but I didn't expect that she also knows a lot of interesting knowledge. Well, next time she comes, let her try again in black stockings and long boots. Musian was thinking about such things in his heart. After returning to the palace, he meditated for a while, lying on the bed, and heard the door creak open. That was Yao Meng, who had just taken a bath. "You have worked hard this time. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid it wouldn't be so smooth," Musian said. "I just did what I could, but whether you can evolve into a nine-tailed fox depends on you." Yao Meng walked to the bedside gracefully, and looked at the young man with a meaningful smile in her beautiful green eyes. "What's wrong?" Musian felt a little uncomfortable being stared at, and sat up. Yao Meng played with a strand of black hair and said lightly, "Nothing, but you now have a charming aura on your body. You must be more careful in the future. Even if you don't expose your natural furnace body in the future, there will be many people who are concerned about your body." Musian thought a little more in his heart after hearing this, and sighed with worry. I really didn't expect that too much charm would become a big problem. Now he is the body of a nine-tailed fox, and his charming aura, even the great masters of the Hedao realm can't help but look at it twice, let alone an ordinary female cultivator? If the aura in the natural furnace is accidentally leaked, I'm afraid it will cause a lot of trouble. I know. I'll pay attention to it from now on. When Musian said this, he noticed Yao Meng's meaningful look, hesitated, and asked tentatively, "Do you know everything?" Yao Meng asked in confusion, "What do you mean?" Musian was about to speak, but at this time, the soft and gentle voice came from the room. "If you mean that Luo Tan is thinking about your natural furnace body," I guessed a little. She looked at Musian with a faint smile. Sure enough, Musian's heart skipped a beat. Yao Meng raised her hand to comb Musian's hair, and said leisurely, "In fact, I didn't think that the medicine emperor of Yuzhou would take a fancy to you before. After all, her status is so noble that she would not attack a small cultivator, not to mention that I am your Taoist partner in public. However, since you evolved into a nine-tailed fox, and even when the medicine emperor found an excuse to leave before, I had a premonition. I always say that I have a strong sense of anti-gank, but now it seems that Yao Meng's anti-green sense is also very strong." Musian hesitated and said, "You don't blame me?" Yao Meng looked at him with a faint smile. Her beautiful green eyes were as clear as the water in the deep autumn, with a playful look. "If I blame you, you wouldn't be sitting and talking to me now." Behind her, a vine seemed to come alive, wandering on her flawless white legs like mutton fat. Aware of Musian's sight, Yao Meng looked at him calmly and said lightly, "The medicine emperor is a natural furnace. If she is willing to practice with you, it will be of great benefit to your future. Naturally, I have no objection." The medicine emperor thought she didn't know, so he secretly made love with Musian and felt happy. She knew that the medicine emperor thought she didn't know, and she could even make love with Musian during this period, and Musian would even feel guilty about her. Who is more profitable? Het. Young Master Mu had never expected that the intrigues of the Mosasaurus in the fish pond were gradually getting out of the control of the fish pond owner. "You don't have to feel guilty about me. As long as it's for your own good, everything is worth it," Yao Meng said with a smile. "You said that, but I feel even more guilty." Musian reached out and held the fairy's slender jade hand, and said softly, "Sorry, I will compensate you." Yao Meng hummed, nodded, and smiled. "I have to go to the South Wasteland again after this. You must remember to protect yourself." The matter of the three pillar gods, Musian understood slightly. The matter between me and the three pillar gods of the South Wasteland should come to an end. Yao Meng smiled brightly, although her smile was breathtakingly beautiful, but there was a bit of coldness in her eyes. The three pillar gods of the South Wasteland have been secretly playing tricks more than once. Last time, two of the three pillar gods fell, and she had no time to take care of the remaining one in order to help Musian recover his body, but now that she has time, she should settle it thoroughly. After the two chatted for a while, Musian seemed to remember something and suddenly sighed. "Although it is said that we should protect ourselves, the Lan family's ancestral worship meeting is about to begin, and I may have to go again after that." Yao Meng glanced at him lightly. "Lan Murian has the protection of the leader of Lianji sect. Why are you going to this muddy water?" She has been in Lianji sect for so long, so she naturally knows some secrets about the Lan family. This ancestral worship meeting is also the best time for the Lan sisters to recognize their ancestors. But with the temperament of the two sisters, if their mother's spirit tablet did not enter the Lan family, and the instigator of the day did not apologize, they would probably not give in. "If I can, I don't want to go either." Musian hugged the fairy's soft waist and said worriedly, "The Lan family has always been strong and has a huge influence in Dongzhou. If I go with my senior sisters, I'm afraid I will be bullied too." Yao Meng said lightly, "The Lan family is indeed strong in Dongzhou, but it is not so strong as to ride on the head of Yaokai." Musian said helplessly, "Although this is the case, I am only half a Yaokai person. If there is a conflict, they probably won't care about my identity at all, right?" Last time I heard from my senior sister that the elders of the Lan family have always been strong and scary. This is not a lie. The Lan family has a huge influence in Dongzhou, and it is natural for them to be strong. The Lan family is indeed strong in Dongzhou, and they do have the capital to be strong. If you really want to go to the Lan family, take this Yaokai Holy Land guest token. Yao Meng took out a black token from his arms and handed it to Muzian. Muzian was slightly startled, and hesitantly asked, "Can I really accept such a valuable thing?" Yao Meng glared at the boy, and said charmingly, "You just want a word from me, there is no need to be so indirect." She stared at the boy and whispered, "Now everything I have is given to me by you, so the same dash. As long as it is anything you want, I will give it to you." Before Muzian could speak, Yao Meng placed her fingertips on the boy's chest, pressed lightly, and let him lean on the bed behind him. Accompanied by this, there was also a charming voice that rang in the room. "Including myself, I am also yours." So, they were the protagonists all along. Author, CCC. Chapter 421. Demon Realm. Located deep in the palace of the Demon Realm, a graceful and elegant woman was sitting in front of the throne, looking at the bronze mirror in her hand, and fell into deep thought. "If I call him now, will he think that I can't wait to meet him as soon as I wake up?" Accompanied by the charming voice that seemed to be able to bewitch people's hearts, the first seat not far from the stage stood respectfully on the side. Hearing this, her eyes couldn't help but become a little more strange. It would be fine if Her Majesty didn't say it, but now that she said this, it was a bit like covering one's ears and stealing the bell. Thinking about it, but the first seat still said respectfully, "The appearance of the nine-tailed sky fox is related to Muzian. Your Majesty only summoned him to meet because he cares about the nine-tailed sky fox. This is not impatient, but there is something serious to ask him." The Queen of the Demon Realm nodded with satisfaction and glanced at the maid who had walked a wider path. "That's right. Since I was awakened by the nine-tailed sky fox, I would naturally care about the nine-tailed sky fox. It is only natural to summon him to meet. Your Majesty is wise." The first seat bowed slightly and said respectfully. But he sighed in his heart. At present, no one in the demon world dares to tell His Majesty that Muzian is married, but the truth cannot be hidden after all. If His Majesty meets Muzian and learns about this. The first seat was bold, raised his eyes, and secretly peeked at the charming and beautiful face of the Queen of the Demon World, with a hint of complexity in his eyes. If he told the truth at this time, what would happen? The Queen of the Demon World naturally noticed the sight of the first seat, but at this moment, she was too lazy to care about what the first seat was thinking, and her mind was already on Muzian. "Since it's about the nine-tailed fox, I will summon him tomorrow, no, now. After all, this matter is of great importance, and we must know the details, and this is also for the sake of the demon world." The Demon Queen's slender green jade fingers gently tapped the bronze mirror. The next moment, a wisp of enchanting pink aura quietly entered the bronze mirror. The first seat bowed slightly and said, "Your Majesty, I will take my leave first." After that, he quietly left the demon palace and then silently held his forehead. She had to think about how to explain this to His Majesty later. Yuzhou, Daoku Palace. In the warm bedroom filled with ambiguity, Muzian lay on his side behind Yao Meng, holding the fairy's plump and slender waist with his hands, his chest pressed against her beautiful back, feeling the fairy's graceful figure, and sighed helplessly, "Sister Kingdi, can I return to my original appearance?" It was not easy to use the body of the nine-tailed fox to restore his original appearance, but the Kingdi used the excuse of intending to test the magic of the nine-tailed fox body to make him return to his past appearance. Although his physical fitness has not decreased, he is still a little uncomfortable. Yao Meng turned around, stroked the boy's face with her slender hand, and said with a smile, "Don't worry, it won't be too late to return to your original appearance after tonight, right?" Do you like my current form so much? Musian forced a bitter face. Is handsomeness no match for cuteness after all? Yao Meng's beautiful legs were slightly close together, and she held Musian's face in her arms with one hand, and was about to speak. However, at this moment, she suddenly felt a demonic aura as surging as the sea quietly gushing out from Musian's ring. Yao Meng narrowed her beautiful eyes, and lightly tapped Musian's ring with her fingertips, and a ray of green light silently poured into it. Soon, the demonic aura quietly disappeared between heaven and earth. Musian just stood up and supported Yao Meng's waist to please this fairy, and saw the faint green light on her fingertips, and couldn't help but hesitated and said, "What's wrong?" A smile flashed across Yao Meng's beautiful eyes, and a happy arc appeared at the corner of her mouth. "Nothing, don't worry, you just need to concentrate on the current things." But as soon as the voice fell, the green light had already followed the demon world bronze mirror in Musian's ring, completely erasing the summons of the demon world queen. Dong dong. Almost at that moment, the demon world queen suddenly opened her scarlet beautiful eyes. She took out the bronze mirror and looked at the green lotus blossoming in it, with a hint of indifference in her beautiful eyes. Green Emperor. The unintentional increase in strength caused a crack in the bronze mirror in her hand. The next day, early in the morning, Musian opened his eyes in a happy and comfortable mood, got out of bed, and yawned lazily. The blazing charcoal fire last night had gone out, and a warm fragrance filled the room. Feeling the spiritual energy still filling his body, Musian breathed a sigh of relief. This feeling is great, I seem to have never had such a wonderful start. If Musian had to evaluate his feelings about practicing yesterday, I think there are only two words that can describe it: comfortable. After taking the Tegzu pill, his physical strength and energy have been improved qualitatively. In the past, he would have to spend a lot of energy just to meditate and practice, not to mention that he had to study the use of the spiritual energy of the heavenly court in addition to meditating and practicing. The biggest difference between Musian and the great power of Hideo is undoubtedly the ability of endurance. The great power of Hideo is not only immortal in realm, but also in his body. Except for Ruoxi, who was still soft and weak after joining the Dao, among the other girls Musian knew, there was no girl who still looked so weak and pitiful when she was in the Hideo realm. All in all, Mrs. Mu is different from the protagonist around her. His body is still in the god-refining realm, but after the training of the Tegzu pill, his body alone is now comparable to the land gods in the return to the void realm. Due to the training of Tegzudan, Musian was not tired at all even after yesterday's meditation practice. He was even still active, and his spiritual energy also increased sharply. No wonder it is said that a demon cultivator can fight two cultivators of the same realm at the same time. The body of the demon clan is indeed too abnormal. Although the gap becomes smaller as the realm goes up, the experience brought by this nine-tailed fox body is great for me. It's so wonderful, Musian sighed in admiration. It seems that the body of the nine-tailed fox has really helped you a lot. If it had been in the past, you would probably still be meditating and practicing to absorb spiritual energy. Behind her, Yao Meng was sitting on the bed with her legs crossed. Different from her usual dress, she was wearing a white undershirt this morning, which outlined the fairy's flawless and exquisite figure. The tall and slender Qingleng fairy played with the pure world vine that had been with her for a long time. Her green hair was draped like a waterfall, looking slightly lazy and messy. The white underwear clings to her sexy figure. Although she deliberately restrains her aura and looks like an ordinary woman, if she walks in the mortal world, any ascetic will notice that she is different from other people. After all, just this fairy appearance is incompatible with ordinary people. The demon race's physique is indeed much stronger than I imagined, but if it weren't for the Tegzudan material you found, I wouldn't be able to be promoted to the nine-tailed sky fox now. Musian turned around and said with a gentle smile. After all, she was the only one in the Ascension realm in Kyushu. Even after a night of practice, she still didn't look tired at all, and instead became more and more beautiful. Yao Menking's beautiful eyebrows revealed a hint of smile, and she said, "That's good." The two of them looked at each other, as if they were remembering what happened last night. Under Musian's gaze, Yao Meng's pretty face quickly turned into a charming blush. She raised her beautiful eyes and said softly, "Taking the Tegza pill does not mean that you can be promoted to the nine-tailed sky fox. I just brought you to this threshold, but whether you can succeed or not depends on you. Fortunately you succeeded in the end." Musian nodded slightly, then looked at the shy posture of the fairy, and said jokingly, "Yes, fortunately the Tegza pill has tempered my physique before, otherwise after last night's practice, I am afraid I will have to rest for a whole day today. Come on." Yao Meng looked at the young man with a smile and said, "Are you blaming me for going too far yesterday? Apart from summoning the purifying vine, she actually didn't do anything too extreme. At most, she used the principle of time to tease Musian a little bit, but that's not too much, right? She just asked Musian to practice the principle of time with her. No. I just didn't expect you to be so good at playing," Musian complained. Thinking back to the time when he saw Fairy's sister in the pilgrimage hall, he still treated her with respect and admiration as a junior. Who would have thought that after Fairy awakened, she turned out to be a scheming person, and even liked to use various methods. Tease others. If the people of Yaokai Holy Land find out, I'm afraid the image of Qing Emperor in their hearts will collapse. Musian sighed. The image in the world's eyes doesn't matter. Her cold voice was laced with a teasing smile, and she stared at the boy, "As long as you like it. That's why I say that a big sister who knows how to please men is really irresistible." Musian sighed inwardly. Soon, he seemed to have thought of something, and a hint of pink light flashed across his dark pupils. The next moment, Yao Meng's figure was reflected in his eyes, and her weakness was also reflected in Musian's vision. "What's wrong?" Yao Meng was a little unaccustomed to being stared at. She raised her eyes slightly and looked at him. A very conspicuous and vivid blue lotus flower was reflected on the small and white right jade foot, which made the already flawless white feet it has a bit more indescribable beauty. "So this is your weakness, no wonder I haven't discovered it before." With a look of sudden realization, Musian walked up to the bed and sat down, then reached out and gently held Yao Meng's crystal clear white feet. The toes were painted with light pink nail polish, and the skin was as white as ice and snow. The toes were slender and slightly curled up as if embarrassed. A trace of shame flashed in Yao Menmei's eyes, and she subconsciously wanted to retract her feet, but Musian held her tighter. A trace of mist soon filled her beautiful eyes, and she lowered her eyes slightly, maintaining her usual calm voice, but there was a little shyness in her voice. "I have told you before, the body of Hideo does not exist. There is no such thing as weakness." Musian said humbly, but he already had the answer in his heart. He had been intimate with Yao Meng a lot, but when he was intimate with this spotless fairy in the past, although he often turned into a licking dog to please her, he never seemed to poke at her weaknesses. According to Yao Meng's previous explanation, Hideo power has no weaknesses. But Musian clearly remembered that Naxi and Lingxian both had weaknesses. How could it be possible that Yao Meng didn't have them? As a result, this time with the blessing of the nine-tailed fox body, he discovered that Qingdi's sister's weakness was at the solace of her feet. However, it must be stated in advance that he is not really a foot master, but Yao Meng's soft and delicate feet are not an exaggeration even if they are described as slender feet. Therefore, Musian inevitably wants to see more of them. Have you seen enough? It's daytime now. Are you planning to go to the demon world? If you don't hurry up, it will get dark soon." At the end of the sentence, the jade feet were folded together casually, just resting on Musian's knees, with a beautiful translucent texture under the slightly penetrated morning light. "Don't worry, we'll get there in half an hour. Sister Qingdi works so hard on weekdays, and I want to do some service for you occasionally. Musian explained with a smile while kneading Yao Meng. Seeing that the young man had no intention of letting go, Yao Meng gave him a faint side glance and said lightly, "Do you like it that much?" "How is that possible? My hobbies are actually normal." Musian immediately rejected it, and then said with a smile, "It's just because Sister Kingdi is spotless and every inch of her skin is white and translucent. If it were a normal woman, she wouldn't be able to attract me so much. This is not flattery, after all, she is the first-generation saint of Yaokai." Even at this moment, Yao Meng's skin still shines with a silvery white light as soft as moonlight. It is precisely because she is sacred and flawless that she attracts him. It's not because he is a foot control or anything like that. Yao Meng glanced at Musian and said lightly, "I like it so much, do you still want to lick it?" "Forget it today, it's already daytime after all." Musian finally let go of his palm, looked at the fairy sister who was blushing and staring at him shyly, and said reservedly, "I can try it next time." Yao Meng said angrily, "Abnormal." Musian was startled, "Can you say it again?" Yao Meng pointed to the door of the room and then to Musian. Musian was slightly stunned and said, "Sister Kingdi, do you want me to open the door and get some fresh air?" Roll. For the first time, I made the always friendly Sister Kingdi so angry that she cursed her. Didn't my personal interface give me an achievement? Musian stretched his waist, put on a white robe and left the room. The palace arranged by Luo Ten was very quiet, but Musian walked around the palace and found no trace of Wei Mengru. Instead, he captured the traces of the maid near Yaoxin Palace through his natural spirit body. At this moment, near the Yaoxin Palace of the Immortal Dynasty, one can vaguely see the servants coming and going. Among these servants, Musian saw a very conspicuous and beautiful maid. In terms of appearance alone, her appearance is no less than that of Biru Oxy and others, and her beautiful snow-white legs appear even more straight and slender against the skirt. As if aware of Musian's gaze, Wei Mengru glanced sideways. When I saw that face, for some reason, most of the anger I had last night suddenly dissipated. "Are you used to sleeping last night, Sister Mengru?" Musian said with a smile. His handsome face, with his sunny and cheerful tone, made it difficult for many of the daughters of dignitaries who passed by to look away, their beautiful eyes shining with brilliance. The Immortal Dynasty in Yuzhou is different from other dynasties in that most of these officials are monks, and some of them will bring their own children into the palace in the hope that they can stay in the palace and learn the method of alchemy. A prominent family background also means that they have seen many noble sons, but even the daughters of officials with prominent family backgrounds have never seen a big boy like Musian. The so-called Toyoshen Tashiro is nothing more than that. Wei Mengru was obviously not used to the attention of everyone. She walked closer to the young master and said softly, "What are you doing here?" "I couldn't find you anywhere, so I came here to have a look," Musian said with a smile. "Don't you need to accompany Senior Kingdi? She is your Taoist companion." Wei Mengru's words were somewhat unpleasant or even cold. However, even though she was pretending to be aloof, her heart was beating uncontrollably from the moment she approached Musian. The charming effect of the body of the nine-tailed celestial fox cannot be resisted even by the maid. "Yao Meng wants to accompany you, but I was thinking about Sister Mengru last night." Musian generously held her cold little hand and said softly, "Sister Mengru, are you still blaming me?" "This young master is becoming more and more hateful." Wei Mengru lowered her eyes slightly. She heard the voices between men and women in the next room last night. She was originally in a bad mood, but now when Musian held her hand, she felt it was as if a warm current had melted away, and my heart softened involuntarily. He has always relied on this face and sweet words to act recklessly before, but now that he has a naturally charming body, it is even harder for people to be angry with him. Aware of the gazes of the women around her, Wei Mengru whispered uncomfortably, "You came out to find me, didn't Kingdi say anything?" Muzian looked at the shy and attractive face of the maid and said with a smile, Yao Meng is going to visit the southern wilderness after this, so it doesn't matter dash. He paused and continued, even if Yao Meng is here, I have already planned to come to see Sister Mengru today. Wei Mengru glanced at the young master, and the corners of her mouth curved with contempt. Oh! He dared to laugh at his master. Muzian raised his eyebrows slightly and wanted to slap the maid on the buttocks, but considering that this was a public place after all, he held back in the end. Fortunately, he had long been accustomed to the maid's attitude, so he didn't pay too much attention to it and took Wei Mengru back to the palace. But along the way, the maid seemed to be ignoring her young master because of what happened last night. After entering the palace, Muzian said calmly, I may have to go to the demon world after this. Does Sister Mengru plan to go with me? What are you doing in the demon world? Wei Mengru's attention was indeed diverted. The demon throne of the demon clan needs its ancestor to give up the throne in order to be promoted. At that time, after taking the Tegzu pill, I saw the nine-tailed fox of the demon clan. Muzian immediately explained everything that had happened before, and when he heard the last word, Wei Mengru's eyes became more thoughtful. The land of the Fox clan contains the soul-locking bell left by the nine-tailed sky fox in the past, so you have to go to the demon world. However, although the relationship between Dongzhou and the demon world has eased now, if your Dongzhou monk's identity is exposed, I'm afraid there will still be a lot of trouble. Muzian smiled and said, Sister Mengru, have you forgotten my other identity? In Dongzhou, the mark left by the queen of the demon realm cannot be exposed, otherwise it will cause huge trouble. But if you are in the demon world, the demon world mark left by the beautiful snake will have a huge effect. Wei Mengru nodded silently and said, I can hide my aura without being noticed, so it doesn't matter. But you still have to be careful in everything. After all, the demon world is no better than Dongzhou. It is a world of the weak and the strong. Most of the demon cultivators have probably never even seen the queen of the demon realm, let alone the mark she left on Muzian. It doesn't matter, even if I'm not enough, there's still Sister Ye here, Muzian said with a smile. Ye Kingzin's spiritual consciousness is still in his body. If he wants, Muzian can wake her up at any time. But what Sister Mengru said is true. This trip should be kept a little low-key, so as not to cause unnecessary trouble in the demon world. When Muzian just said this, he suddenly felt a sea-like spiritual energy quietly rising from Naja. Then at the next moment, a soft and numb voice floated softly in their ears. If you want to go to the land of the Fox clan, how about I take you there now? The queen of the demon world. Is she awake? Muzian reacted almost immediately and immediately took out the bronze mirror given by the queen of the demon realm from the ring. In the bronze mirror, the alluring aura silently filled the surroundings of the two of them. Click. On the bronze mirror in Muzian's hand, a blue lotus flower just bloomed, and there was a slight cracking sound. Immediately afterwards, dense cracking sounds sounded one after another. Finally, the green lotus shattered, and from the demonic mist, a seductive woman walked out with sexy steps. Muzian looked up and saw the naturally charming ruler of the demon world. She wore a dark red patterned dress, her hair was in a popular bun, and she wore gorgeous jewelry, which highlighted her naturally charming and beautiful face. Your Majesty the Queen, are you awake? Muzian said in surprise. It stands to reason that it should take half a year for the queen of the demon realm to retreat, but now it has only been more than 4 months, she actually left the retreat early? Muzian continued to ask, are you willing to take me to the land of the Fox clan? If I take you there, you can avoid unnecessary trouble, right? The queen of the demon realm said with a smile. This is true. If the ruler of the demon world is with us, we will soon be able to obtain the soul-locking bell. Muzian nodded secretly and was about to speak in response. However, at this moment, a coldness flashed through the beautiful eyes of the queen of the demon realm, and she changed her voice and continued, but before that, I still have something to ask Emperor Cheng. She turned her eyes slightly and looked at the fairy in the green skirt who was floating in mid-air with a smile. I wonder if Emperor Cheng has the time to chat with me. Musian raised his head excitedly, and then he realized that Yao Meng was floating in mid-air at some point, wearing a green skirt that showed off his beautiful and charming appearance, with a soft and friendly smile on his face. When was she behind me? Didn't she hear all the love words I said to Sister Mengru? As soon as this thought flashed through Musian's mind, he soon realized another important thing. No. The Queen of the Demon Realm is so good, why is she looking for Yao Meng just after finishing her seclusion? For some reason, Musian suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. However, before Musian could figure out what was happening, a pleasant voice came from mid-air. Okay. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. So, they were the protagonists all along. Author, CCC. Chapter 422. Musian just felt very angry. In fact, he had a vague worry in his heart after Yao Meng was promoted to the realm of celestial being. Although the mosasaurs in the fish pond seemed harmonious on the surface, they might have conflicts at any time because of fighting for food. The previous mosasaurs were all in the realm of Hedeo, and such conflicts were not very obvious. After all, they were all in the realm of Hedeo. Once they started fighting, Josu would be in chaos. After all, their strengths were similar and it was difficult to tell the winner. But now Yao Meng has ascended to the realm of celestial being and has mastered the principle of time. It is difficult to deal with people in the same realm, not to mention that the realm of Hedeo is also subject to the rules of heaven and earth. If the Queen of the Demon Realm suffers at this time, she will naturally be sulky. And by then, it will be Master Mu himself who will be busy. Moreover, this trip to the land of the Fox clan still requires the help of the Queen of the Demon Realm. But in the final analysis, the Queen of the Demon Realm and Yao Meng have never met each other. Why did the ruler of the demon world go directly to Yao Meng just after arriving in Yuzhou? At this moment, Musian was in a mess. I wonder why the Queen of the demon world wants to see me. At this time, Yao Meng had already landed from mid-air, stepped on the void, and walked step by step to the side of Musian, with a friendly smile on her face and a voice like the sound of nature. If I am not mistaken, this is a ray of spiritual consciousness that has descended with the help of the bronze mirror in my husband's hand as a medium. You came to me just after the retreat, I think you have something important to discuss. When the Queen of the Demon World heard this, she sneered on the spot. If I remember correctly, Musian's Taoist partner should be Gong Lianyu, right? How could the dignified Qing Emperor even snatch other people's Taoist partners and even call him husband in public? This sentence almost threw the 4 words "you are shameless" in Yao Meng's face. Last night, she summoned Musian, but not only did she not hear Musian's voice, but even the news was intercepted by the Qing Emperor before it was even spread. The bronze mirror she gave to Musian was sealed up by the Qing Emperor in secret. If not, she would not have just come out of retreat and forcefully broken the seal of the pure world Green Lotus, and descended with the bronze mirror in Musian's hand as a medium. Not good. If this goes on, it will really be a fight. Musian looked left and right, smelled the breath of danger, and immediately raised his hands to bow, and was about to speak. But he underestimated Yao Meng's strength. Although the fairy sister didn't like to fight with others on weekdays, it didn't mean that when others were going to ride on her face and mock her, she could still maintain a calm expression. Yao Meng glanced at the Queen of the Demon Realm with a smile, and said lightly, "Daiyu has been in retreat for several months, I'm afraid you don't know what happened in the outside world. But even so, didn't your servant tell you what happened in the Yaokai Holy Land some time ago?" The Queen of the Demon Realm raised a dangerous arc at the corner of her mouth, and said, "It's just that you have ascended to the sky and broken the shackles of heaven and earth. There are more than you in this world who can ascend to the sky. This is not a show of strength, but a fact. The Green Emperor is definitely not the only one who can ascend to heaven. To break through the limit of a cultivator and ascend to heaven, one needs to meet a condition: the position of the heavenly court. On the contrary, the Green Emperor took someone else's husband after he ascended to heaven. I'm afraid he will be despised by the people of Juzhu. The Queen of the Demon Realm continued with a faint smile. Yao Meng pursed her lips and chuckled. If I remember correctly, you have had intimate behavior with him before, right? Could it be that the Queen of the Demon Realm also thinks that her previous behavior is taking someone else's husband? The Queen of the Demon Realm raised her eyebrows, her eyes revealed a hint of coldness, and said lightly, I have known him for a long time, and I have never made any overly intimate actions. How can I say that I took someone else's husband? I didn't take someone else's husband either. This is all consensual. Yao Meng lightly moved her eyes away and looked at Musian, saying softly, besides, if you must blame me, it should be Bairuoxi, not you. After all, no matter what, I knew him earlier than you. The Queen of the Demon Realm's eyes were sharp in an instant, staring straight at Yao Meng and the Qing Emperor, who was still unscrupulous even in front of her, and said lightly, you can ascend to heaven. I think it's just because he gave you a seat in the heavenly court. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere in the courtyard was almost stagnant for a moment, and Musian's eyes widened a little, looking at the Queen of the Demon Realm in disbelief. How is it possible? How did she know about this? Yao Meng was also a little surprised, her eyes flickered slightly, and she subconsciously looked at Musian for a second longer. What are you looking at me for? I didn't tell the Queen of the Demon Realm anything. Musian was still in incredible shock, staring at the graceful and plump demon master in front of him. In theory, the seat in the heavenly court should be a secret. Why would the Queen of the Demon Realm know about this? Could someone have told her? But the heavenly court and the 9 provinces have no means of contact at all. Even if the Hedeo realm wants to attack the heavenly court, it is impossible. In the past hundreds of thousands of years, there have been many Hedeo masters who have attempted to attack the road to immortality at the end of their lifespans, but all of them eventually fell on the road to immortality. Even if the Queen of the Demon Realm has an extremely powerful demon body, she should not know the secrets of the heavenly court. Although Mr. Mu doesn't understand much about feelings, from the trip to Jiyuan that day, he can still see that the Queen of the Demon Realm does have special feelings for him. But he can't understand where this feeling comes from, so he is always a little wary of the Queen of the Demon Realm. After all, when he first met her, he still remembered the condescending attitude of the Queen of the Demon Realm and the feeling of surviving under her nose. If his natural furnace body had not been exposed at that time, he might not have been able to enter Lianji sect alive. Oh no. With the identity of the Queen of the Demon Realm, I think she would not bother to attack a small cultivator. In short, the affairs of the heavenly court should be secrets, especially the secret of the ascension to heaven. No one in this world should know it except the Lord of the heavenly court. But now he heard the secret of ascension to heaven from the Queen of the Demon Realm. Not only Musian cares about it, but Yao Meng also cares about it. How do you know? Yao Meng stared at the Queen of the Demon Realm quietly, and the wind flowing around became extremely slow. The ripples in the pond seemed to be rewritten by time and stagnated, maintaining the state of rippling. The time in this space slowed down completely, except for the few people in the space who were not affected. Do you think you are the only one who knows about this? The Queen of the Demon Realm raised her snow-white chin slightly, with a condescending look in her eyes, and said with a faint smile. You did ascend to heaven earlier than me, but that doesn't mean I can't ascend to heaven. It seems that this child didn't tell the Queen of the Demon Realm. Then how did she know about this? Seeing Musian's confused look, Yao Meng inadvertently glanced at the Queen of the Demon Realm with a condescending attitude, and whispered, the affairs of the heavenly court should not be known even by the Hedeo realm of Juzhu. Where did you know it? The silver bell-like laughter echoed in this space. Just hearing that voice made Musian feel his heart beat faster. This is the natural charm of the Hedeo realm. Every frown and smile seems to touch the hearts of others. If Musian returns to the void after refining his spirit in the future, his charming aura will also be much stronger than now, and even a beckoning of his fingers can make female cultivators involuntarily attracted to him. Do you think that after you ascend to heaven, you can do whatever you want, and even cut off the message that I summoned to him last night? The Queen of the Demon Realm said slowly. When he heard this, Musian looked at the woman in front of him in shock, and then subconsciously glanced at the bronze mirror in his hand. On the bronze mirror, the last remaining green petal was quietly drifting away. No wonder the Queen of the Demon Realm was angry, and no wonder she came to him as soon as she woke up today. At first, Musian was wondering why the Queen of the Demon Realm wanted to find him without the help of the bronze mirror, but now it seems that it was because Yao Meng cut off the message from the Queen of the Demon Realm last night and even sealed the bronze mirror. I just don't know if the Queen of the Demon Realm heard anything when I was intimate with Yao Meng last night. Musian felt strange and his expression was slightly surprised. No wonder she looked a little strange for a moment when she was intimate with Yao Meng last night. It turned out that Yao Meng was secretly casting a spell to intercept the news from the Queen of the Demon Realm. But Sister Kingdee's willpower is really good. When she was suppressed by him last night and given the spiritual energy of the natural furnace, she still had the energy to do other things. You just asked me why I know the secret of the heavenly court, right? At this time, the Queen of the Demon Realm raised her lips slightly, and under Yao Meng's gaze, she stepped on the sexy steps step by step, stopped in front of Musian, looked at him straight, and smiled. He gave you a seat in the heavenly court in this life, but as early as in the last life, I was already the third seat in the heavenly court. Musian had not yet woken up from his previous sigh, and heard this shocking words. For a moment, his brain was in a short-circuit state. Yao Meng also narrowed her beautiful eyes, staring at the Queen of the Demon Realm, and said, "Last life. Do you think I will believe this? Whether there is a past life or not, and whether the Hedeo realm can live again, you should know better than me," the Queen of the Demon Realm said lightly. Cultivating immortals is to go against the will of heaven, and after the Hedeo realm, it is even more of a fight with heaven. It stands to reason that the Hedeo realm also has a limit on lifespan, but the Hedeo Great has cultivated imperial-level medicinal materials, each of which can extend the lifespan of 5,000 years. In her previous life, she was not yet in the Hedeo realm, but just a small cultivator in the demon world. At that time, with the assistance of Musian, her demon body slowly completed the evolution, which enabled her to reach this point now. The Queen of the Demon Realm did not want to mention this matter so early, but now that the Green Emperor has already been riding on her face, the Queen of the Demon Realm, who has always been strong, naturally cannot tolerate it. Feeling the silence, the Queen of the Demon Realm looked at Musian and said, "You have always been on guard against me because you have always suspected my purpose, right? After all, we don't have much interaction, so it's normal for you to doubt my purpose. But I care about you, not for any purpose, but because my past self has awakened the memory of my past life." No wonder the Queen of the Demon Realm treats him so well. At this moment, Musian finally understood. Although he has always believed that his appearance is rare in the world, it is not enough to attract the attention of the Queen of the Demon Realm. It's not because the Queen of the Demon Realm is simply attracted by his appearance, but because she is also a reborn person like the original witch. That's why she knew the secret of heaven. No one in this world except the Lord of Heaven would know the secret of heaven unless he told it himself. After all, since there is a reborn person, the original witch, it's not strange even if there is a second reborn person. Now even if someone tells Musian that the Peerless sect leader's sister is also a reborn person, Musian will not find it strange. The indifferent smile on Yao Meng's face finally subsided a little. She always thought that she was the second woman who had intimate contact with Musian, the first one was Biruoxi. But now it seems that she is the latecomer. All the explanations are just your one-sided words, Yao Meng said coldly. Finally, she had the initiative. The demon queen smiled calmly, looking at Yao Meng and said, "It's not you who believes it, but him." The 9 characters of the heavenly court symbolize the 9 seats. After resonating with the new heavenly Dao, you can jump out of the rules of heaven and earth and impact the Yahua realm. The 3rd seat has already been taken. If you don't believe it, you can ask him to go back to the heavenly court to confirm it. With a light tone and after taking the initiative, the ruler of the demon world regained his former arrogant attitude and swept away the depression of last night. At this moment, the courtyard fell into silence for a long time. Musian looked at the silent Yao Meng, and for some reason, he always felt an indescribable weirdness. Although this fairy sister usually doesn't like to fight with others, she has never taken the initiative to give in to anyone, let alone being humiliated. But now she would keep silent. Could it be that she didn't want to conflict with the Queen of the Demon Realm, because she knew that he would need the Queen of the Demon Realm to take him to the land of the Fox clan after this? At this time, the Queen of the Demon Realm's eyes fell on Musian, and there was a hint of tenderness in her enchanting eyes that looked down on all living beings, and she said, "Sorry, I kept it a secret from you before because I didn't think about how to tell you about this." She wanted to attract Musian again with her charm in this life, so she didn't tell the truth. However, now, she can't care so much. "Don't you think I'm a latecomer?" "But I'm not a latecomer, but I've known him in my previous life." "So what if he ascended to heaven?" "He's still a loser." "Why is Yao Meng so gentle today?" If it was before, she would have sacrificed the pure world green lotus. Feeling this strange atmosphere of silence, Musian suddenly realized something was wrong after breaking the silence. He raised his head and looked at the woman in a green dress surrounded by fairy mist. As if she had noticed Musian's gaze, Yao Meng slightly turned her eyes. The moment she met Musian's eyes, her beautiful green eyes flickered slightly, and a happy arc suddenly appeared at the corner of her mouth. Something was wrong. Musian's eyelids twitched wildly. For some reason, he always felt an indescribable strangeness in his heart, and his brain sounded a red temperature alarm. He had a bad premonition. And the facts proved that his premonition was always accurate. Sister is right. If sister is a reborn person, then sister did know my husband earlier than me. Yao Meng's red lips opened slightly, a strand of black hair slid down her forehead, and her soft voice sounded like the sound of heaven in this silent palace. "But, did you marry him in your previous life?" The Queen of the Demon Realm's beautiful eyes suddenly condensed, staring at Yao Meng quietly. "What do you mean by that?" "Have you ever thought about why I call him my husband?" Yao Meng continued to ask. She casually took Musian's hand, lowered her eyes slightly, and played with a strand of black hair that fell lazily with her other hand. The next moment, she raised her eyes. In those beautiful eyes, there was a condescending look. And then in the next moment, the soft and elegant voice was like a thunder, completely exploding in the mind of the Queen of the Demon Realm. "I married him in the holy land of Yaoqi more than half a month ago, and the whole country witnessed it. At that time, Yaoqi even sent an invitation to the demon world." "Why?" Yao Meng's eyes moved, and her fairy voice was soft and lazy, and she said lightly, "Didn't your people tell you that I was married to him?" So, they were the protagonists all along. Author, CCC. Chapter 423. Mary. Is he married? After hearing Yao Meng's words, the Queen of the Demon Realm's first reaction was that the other party was lying. But she saw that Musian was not defended, and recalled that after she woke up yesterday, when she asked her subordinates what had happened in Kyushu recently, all of them were hesitant. If they didn't dare to mention it because Emperor Qing was getting married, everything would make sense. When she thought of this, the queen of the demon realm's face suddenly turned gloomy, and her pretty face was covered with frost. Yao Meng was still calm, with a slight arc at the corner of his mouth, and continued, I think most people in Zhuzhou know about this matter. If you don't believe it, you can ask someone casually after you return. The immortal Yaokai fairy held Musian's arm affectionately, looked at the queen of the demon realm, and said with a faint smile, ask them whether my husband and I are actually husband and wife. So what if he was a reborn person in his previous life and even had an ambiguous relationship with him? Even though she was a latecomer, she was even married to Musian now. Although it is not a real marriage, it is enough to suppress the queen of the demon realm at this moment. As for the truth behind the wedding in the Holy King city at that time, how many people knew about it? The current scene is a vivid display of since ancient times, childhood sweethearts have been defeated by the sky. Although the beauty was in his arms, Musian only felt tremendous pressure when he felt the almost cold bright red eyes of the queen of the demon realm. Sister Mengru, please save your young master. Musian wanted to pin his hopes on Wei Mengru, who was fishing on the side, but when he secretly looked at the maid, he found that the maid was sitting in front of a stone chair with her hands folded, with a pair of round and jade-like hair dangling. Snow white and long legs, she didn't want to pay attention to the young master at all. Very good, Sister Mengru can't be counted on. Seeing that the atmosphere was getting increasingly weird, Musian had no choice but to change the subject abruptly. Yao Meng, aren't you planning to go to southern wilderness today? When do you plan to leave? Yao Meng glanced sideways at the young man, lightly opened her red lips, and said, does this mean you feel sorry for your lover in your previous life? She deliberately emphasized the word past life. Although her words were calm, there was a hint of jealousy in her tone. And this somewhat displeased tone made the queen of the demon realm wake up from the previous shock. She looked at the two of them, and a meaningful smile soon appeared on her face. Although it is unclear what the truth behind King Di and Musian's marriage is, judging from the current performance of the two, it is obvious that she and Musian are not already married as a couple, as King Di said on the surface. After all, if they really got married at that time, wouldn't Gong Lianyu stop it? Will the forbidden saints stand by and watch? Including that woman Shang Yanfei, it was impossible for Musian to marry someone else just like that. Although she is not sure whether concubine Shang Yan is a reborn person, judging from the information she knows so far, concubine Shang Yan does attach great importance to Musian. That woman was extremely mysterious, and all she left to the world was her unparalleled slender figure. So far, no one knows what concubine Shang Yan's purpose is. But no matter what, she would never let Musian marry King Di just like that. It's really interesting. Did Qing Emperor turn out to be newly married to him? Then don't I want to wish you a happy wedding and send you a congratulatory gift. Accompanied by a soft and sweet voice, the graceful woman walked up to Musian with sexy and enchanting steps, stared into the young man's dark eyes, and gently touched his face with her hand. I didn't expect you to actually evolve into the body of a nine-tailed celestial fox. I originally thought that Gong Lianyu would be the most promising person to be able to cultivate into a nine-tailed celestial fox. Her voice softened a bit unconsciously, and she never looked at Yao Meng beside her. I didn't really have much hope at the beginning. It just happened that after taking the Tegzu pill, I summoned the nine-tailed fox spirit consciousness that had dissipated in the world, and she handed the demon seed to me. Musian, he shook his head. There was a trace of charm in the beautiful eyes of the queen of the demon realm, and she said quietly, the nine-tailed celestial fox has the top physique in the demon world. The original nine-tailed celestial fox bewitched countless monks with its natural charming aura, and one of the biggest reasons, because it can see through other people's weaknesses. And it just so happens that I am also naturally charming. When I take you to the land of the fox tribe after this, I will teach you how to use it reasonably. When she said this, she glanced at Yao Meng inadvertently. Although it seemed like she was talking to Musian, she was actually telling King Di that she was the one who would take him to the demon world after that, and she was even able to get intimate with Musian during this period. Unexpectedly, this fairy was still as calm as before, looking at Musian with a half-smile. Then, a soft, elegant and sweet voice came from the courtyard, "My sister has been in seclusion for nearly half a year. I'm afraid I don't know that even without natural charm, he has attracted the attention of many girls. But even so, the one who ends up with him is still me." Another meaning of these words is, I have already done what you, the queen of the demon realm, want to do, and more than once. Regardless of whether you were with him in the previous life or not, I am the one who is with him in this life, even married. Even if you really find a chance to be intimate with him after this, he has already turned into my shape. The face of the queen of the demon realm suddenly became gloomy and cold. For a moment, it seemed that there was endless demon fog in the palace, and the monstrous demonic energy almost enveloped the entire palace. Then, her eyes fell on the maid who was sitting quietly in the corner, watching the two people fighting, and said coldly, "You are his maid, and your master already has a Taoist partner, but you never stopped what the Green Emperor did and let her do whatever she wanted. I am just his maid, and I have no right to interfere with what the young master wants to do." Wei Mengru replied indifferently. Yao Meng deliberately opened her mouth again and added a knife, smiling, "My husband and I are in love, and Miss Wei, as a maid beside my husband, naturally has no reason to stop it, right?" Boom! The pink demon fog in the palace broke out completely, almost covering the entire sky. Then, the time that had slowed down in the palace began to flow quietly again. In terms of time, she was also approaching the stage of celestial equinox. Yao Meng narrowed her eyes and couldn't help but look at the queen of the demon realm twice more. This demon realm was indeed extremely talented. Even without the spiritual energy of the heavenly court, she had already reached this point by simply devouring the essence of the first generation of demon realm. If given time, the demon realm might reach an unprecedented height. But so what? A loser is still a loser. Even if he really celestial equinoxes and ascends to heaven one day, Musian would have already become her. Not good, they are really going to fight. Musian's eyelids twitched wildly as he watched this scene. He thought that he might have to use the heavenly ruler today to try to extinguish the flames for the two of them, and even prepared to wake up Ye Qingxin. However, the next moment, the overwhelming demonic energy quietly dissipated. The originally cold expression of the queen of the demon realm also calmed down. Yao Meng glanced at him and smiled faintly, "I thought you couldn't help it." The queen of the demon realm snorted coldly and said, "Since you plan to go to the southern wilderness to settle new and old grudges, if I fight with you, wouldn't it be helping the southern wilderness in disguise?" The southern wilderness had repeatedly obstructed the Green Emperor in the past. When he was in the Hedeo realm, he only secretly ordered his subordinates to take action. When he reached the Yahua realm, he even joined forces with the Buddha in the western regions to stop him. Whether it was for Musian's consideration or what, it was not a wise move to fight with the Green Emperor at the moment. Unlike the little fish in the fish pond, the mosasaurs really have a stronger sense of self-management and are more rational. Musian, who was originally worried, breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, he suddenly realized that a smiling gaze was looking at him from the side, so he looked over. Yao Meng glanced at him lightly and said in a voice transmission, "You have already had an intimate act with the queen of the demon realm before, right?" "I didn't know that I knew the queen of the demon realm in the past, so it's impossible for me to have any intimate act with her," Musian said helplessly in a voice transmission. If he really did something with the beautiful snake, it would be fine, but the problem is that he didn't do anything at all, so he won't take the blame. Yao Meng raised his eyebrows slightly and said in a voice transmission, "Really? Of course, don't you know the art of looking at Qi? Can't you see if I've lied?" Musian replied in a voice transmission. Yao Meng nodded silently after hearing this. "That's right, it seems that the queen of the demon realm confessed to Musian today that she was a reborn person. Before this, I think the queen of the demon realm would not have had any intimate things with Musian. It's just. After that, she needs to go to the southern wilds, and during this period, the queen of the demon realm will have too many opportunities to attack. Although she is confident enough in her charm, this beautiful snake is no less naturally charming than the nine-tailed heavenly fox. If Musian really surrenders to the queen of the demon realm when she comes back. But if she drags on and leaves the southern wilds evil god alone, she may have more troubles. Yao Meng's eyes flickered slightly, staring at Musian's face, affectionately. You might as well go with Bairuoxi when you go to the Fox clan this time. After all, that is where her three-tailed fox body was bred. Maybe she will have new insights after going to the Fox clan. Musian hummed thoughtfully, I know. That's right. After all, Ruoxi's physique was obtained from the Fox clan. This trip is equivalent to going to her mother's home. Maybe she can also gain some insights from it. The queen of the demon realm raised her eyebrows slightly and glanced at the Green Emperor inadvertently. Yao Meng looked at him slightly sideways, a faint smile appeared on the corner of her mouth, and she smiled, then my husband, I will ask you to take care of him on this trip. Bairuoxi has a gentle personality, but it is black when cut open, and Gong Lianyu herself has a domineering and strong personality. With Gong Lianyu's temperament, it is impossible for the queen of the demon realm to do whatever she wants to Musian. This move is a bit like driving a tiger to swallow a wolf. The queen of the demon realm seemed to understand something as well, and immediately sneered, you don't need the Green Emperor to speak, I also know what to do. Do you think that if I let him follow the Sword Palace Master, I will have no way? Every powerful person in the Hedeo realm can temporarily break through the constraints of the rules of heaven and earth in his own territory as long as there is a formation blessing. In the demon world, if she wanted to, she could even hum him in front of the master of the Sword Palace. Yao Meng was suspended in mid-air, her tall and graceful figure hidden in a green skirt, looming, her holy and soft voice had a hint of playfulness, sister, I would never take advantage of others' danger to secretly have sex with a married man. Make out. In other words, let him use the body of the nine-tailed fox to transform into the boy he used to be, and then. The queen of the demon realm was startled. If Emperor Qing hadn't mentioned this, she would have almost forgotten that the body of the nine-tailed fox can switch between various forms. For some reason, the woman's originally indifferent red eyes couldn't help but have a bit of splendor, and she glanced at Musian inadvertently. Then, the corner of her mouth raised a charming arc, do you think everyone is like Qing Emperor, with those kind of strange hobbies and interests? If the monks in Zhou know about it, I'm afraid their image of the lover in their dreams will be shattered. He even deliberately asked other girls to follow him. Could it be that the Qing Emperor is so unsure of his own charm that he is worried that when you come back, he will fall under my pomegranate skirt? The queen of the demon realm said leisurely. Yao Meng showed a faint smile and said, the naturally charming body is indeed very attractive to men, not to mention that it is still in the Taoist realm. However, I believe in his determination. She paused and continued, as for what my sister said before about me liking my husband's appearance as a boy, it was just to test his sorcery and see if my aura and spirit would be damaged when I changed back to my previous appearance. But judging from what happened last night, it doesn't seem to be the case. Yao Meng said to himself, even in boy form, he was quite energetic last night. These words were just about saying my husband is very smooth in a very explicit way. A chill flashed across the beautiful eyes of the queen of the demon realm, and the vast spiritual energy seemed to burst out in the next moment. For a moment, Yao Meng even thought that the queen of the demon realm couldn't help but want to take action. However, after almost less than a second, the master of the demon world calmed down. Her whole body was shrouded in the charming pink mist, and she could only see a charming figure that bewitched the world. Wearing sexy high-heeled boots, the queen of the demon realm walked slowly in front of Yao Meng, her plump and tall breasts almost touching Yao Meng. This scene was one of the scenes Musian had dreamed of in the past. However, the scene he wanted was in the bedroom, and then he was lying in the soft embrace of the two big sisters, just like a sandwich, not like now. Under Yao Meng's beautiful eyes, the queen of the demon realm smiled and said, "Qing Emperor, just go to the southern wilderness with peace of mind. As for your husband dash." She leaned slightly closer, her bright and attractive red lips pressed against Yao Meng's ear, and whispered word by word. "I will definitely take good care of him for you and never let him down. Although it's a little late, I still managed to collect 8.5k today. Isn't it too much to ask for a vote?" So, they were the protagonists all along. Author, CCC. Chapter 424. My husband and I still have something to say. Can you two leave this place for the time being? Yao Meng had a gentle smile on her face, indicating that she hoped to give her and Musian some private space. The queen of the demon realm raised her eyebrows slightly. She didn't want to pay attention to Yao Meng, but considering that the Green Emperor would go to the southern wilderness later, she finally left the palace with Wei Mengru. Yao Meng took out a green ring with lotus patterns from her arms and handed it to Musian. "What is this?" Musian asked hesitantly. He could feel that this green lotus ring contained a special Taoist rhyme, which was quite extraordinary. "I polished a weapon spirit with a lotus seed of the pure world green lotus. If you inject spiritual energy into it, you can resist attacks and not be hurt. Even a cultivator who is one level higher than you cannot break it," Yao Meng explained. Musian took the green lotus ring and saw that the surface of the ring was shining faintly. On this ring, he also captured Yao Meng's spiritual energy. "Put it on the middle finger of your left hand and see if it fits," Yao Meng said with a smile. The middle finger of the left hand, why does it feel like an engagement ring? Musian hesitated and subconsciously looked at Yao Meng twice more. Sister Qingdi tilted her head slightly, blinked her beautiful green eyes playfully, and pretended to be puzzled. "What's wrong? Or do you want me to help you put it on?" "So you really think of it as an engagement ring," Musian complained in his heart, and under Yao Meng's gaze, he finally put it on the middle finger of his left hand. "It's very beautiful, and this ring is the same as the one on my hand." Yao Meng raised the other Qinglian ring in his palm, and a holy and seductive voice sounded, with a very satisfied look in his eyes. Musian whispered, "Although you have now ascended to heaven, you still need to be careful about everything. If I remember correctly, the southern wasteland should be at the end of the world sea. After all, it is someone else's territory. Even if there is only one evil god left now, it has the southern wasteland formation. Be careful of its final counterattack. Don't worry, I know my limits." Yao Meng paused and asked, "I'm going to the southern wasteland this time. Do you have anything else to say? Remember to do a nucleic acid test when you go," Musian continued. "Be careful about everything. I will wait for you to come back. Since you don't have anything else to say, I'll say it again." Yao Meng floated behind Musian, gently placed her hands on his shoulders, and leaned down slightly. A charming and sexy voice floated out from her pink and attractive red lips. "I have been using the purifying vine to tease you all this time, which makes me feel a little guilty. So dash. Next time, I will give you a chance to tease me with the purifying vine." Hearing the fairy's heart-throbbing words in such a holy manner, Musian's heartbeat suddenly accelerated a few points. "Since you are going to give me this opportunity next time, I will collect some interest first." When he woke up suddenly, he noticed the teasing smile behind him, and his heart was moved. Then he unexpectedly hugged her slender waist, and then slapped her hips covered by the green skirt. Yao Meng almost couldn't help making a sound, but then, she glanced at the boy with her beautiful eyes and said angrily, "You are really bold. Aren't you afraid that your girlfriend in your previous life will see you and get angry and lock you up in a small dark room?" Musian kneaded Yao Meng's plump waist and said softly, For you, I'm not afraid of anything. If a woman like the queen of the demon realm really saw this scene, she would have appeared long ago, and even mocked it. Since she didn't show up, it meant that they really didn't peek here. Besides, he is the lord of the heavenly court. Even if they really saw it, what would it matter? Just suppress it together. Yao Meng's whole soft and beautiful body seemed to be leaning on Musian's arms. She tilted her head slightly and leaned on Musian's shoulder. Suddenly, she said anxiously, I called you husband in front of other women before. You shouldn't blame me, right? Sorry, I was just impatient and provoked. Ah, yes, yes, it was the queen of the demon realm who provoked us first. We don't like fighting. How could the holy and flawless fairy sister take the initiative to start a group, or even suppress other women around Mr. Mew? Musian said softly, it's okay. Although Sister Kingdee's tea art is average, Musian just likes it. There's nothing you can do about it. The only fairy in the Yahua realm in the world is leaning on your arms like a little bird, and she is so gentle. The sweet fragrance of her body is wafting from her green skirt, and you can even feel the whiteness and delicateness of her skin through the fabric. At this time, whether the tea art is good or not is completely unimportant. Appearance and nazi are the king. Yao Meng happens to have both of these qualities, and she is generous. My husband is so nice. Yao Meng held Musian's palm, and the slightly cool and soft touch made Musian rub it a few more times. So I will continue to call you my husband from now on. After a moment, Yao Meng's true intentions were revealed. Musian was a little confused for a moment. Is this a bit? The queen of the demon realm was about to explode when she heard the word husband. If it were Gong Lianyu's temper, she would probably pull out the ancient bronze sword on the spot. If possible, it's better to call you that in private, Musian said softly. Yao Meng raised her beautiful eyes and said in a delicate voice, but I just want to call you that anytime and anywhere. Doesn't my husband like it? The holy and elegant voice was filled with a little woman's tenderness and cuddling, and with a special fairy charm lingered in Musian's ears. For a moment, Musian even had the urge to follow her every word. Musian almost subconsciously wanted to nod, but a flash of lightning flashed through the purple ring on his finger, and Musian's mind was clear in an instant. Musian, who had woken up, noticed the playful smile in Yao Meng's eyes, and suddenly woke up. He stretched out his hand and pinched Yao Meng's waist, but he still couldn't bear to do it. He just pinched it gently, which caused Yao Meng to moan and make a soft and sweet voice. What is your husband doing? She asked with a hint of anger. The fairy charm passed down from the sacred land of Yaokai is not for you to use to confuse man, Musian complained. The Dao of Yaokai Holy Land is somewhat similar to charm in a sense, and when Yao Meng spoke earlier, there was a hint of fairy charm, so that Musian almost fell in love with it. Yao Meng covered her mouth and chuckled, I just hope to be able to call you husband at any time, but it seems that husband doesn't seem to be very happy. Or. She laughed briskly like a silver bell, and hugged Musian with both hands. Her fingertips moved down along his chest little by little, and whispered in Musian's ear, do you prefer the name of master? Dong dong. When he heard the word master, Musian's heartbeat accelerated involuntarily. It would be a lie to say that he was not moved if he let Yao Meng call him master. If I had known, I would have played the master-servant game with her last night, and I could even order Sister Kingdee to do things. Musian felt regretful and said reservedly, I don't have those weird interests. Yao Meng's face was stained with a blush at a speed visible to the naked eye, and a hint of interesting smile flashed across her beautiful green eyes under her eyelashes. You were excited just now, right? If you are not interested, how can you be excited when you hear me call you master? She opened her red lips slightly and whispered in Musian's ear word by word. Musian couldn't help but look back at the woman in a green dress. At this moment, her whole body was shrouded in the moonlight and silver light, revealing a sacred and inviolable posture, but the corner of her mouth was raised with a charming arc, and there was a teasing smile in her eyes. "You did it on purpose," Musian said helplessly. Yao Meng's fingertips drew circles on Musian's chest, and even through the robe, he could feel the slight scratches brought by her nails. She half nestled in Musian's arms, raised her charming eyes, and said with a smile, "Guess." Before he finished speaking, Musian could no longer hold back, lowered his head and kissed Yao Meng's small and plump lips, and at the same time put one hand on her waist, hugging this soft and fragrant body tightly. Yao Meng's beautiful eyes were like autumn water, and her eyelashes were like brushes. After a moment of slight trembling, a hazy mist gradually appeared. She slowly closed her eyes and let this little cultivator in the realm of refining spirit do whatever he wanted. After an unknown amount of time, Musian let go of her. Yao Meng exhaled a breath of hot air gently, and said with a smile, "Are you not worried about being discovered now?" "That's because you are too tempting." Musian slapped her thigh, but the fairy laughed like a silver bell. Then, in the next moment, her green figure disappeared like clouds and smoke, leaving only a soft, elegant, and sweet voice echoing in the world. "Little man, if you don't return to the Void Realm, you will want to ride on your sister and do whatever you want in the future. I'm afraid it will be a bit difficult." "Is this a fairy or a demon?" Musian looked at Yao Meng, who had disappeared in the palace, and couldn't help but sighed from the bottom of his heart. The once holy and flawless fairy sister is gone forever. But it's true, there is no such thing as a holy and flawless fairy in this world, and there is no such thing as a little white rabbit who can enter the Hedeo realm, except Miss Ling Long. At this time, a soft and indifferent voice came from the palace. "The Yaokai Holy Land has a very good reputation in Zhuzhou. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is a decent sect in the eyes of the world, but this is because the way they practice will naturally make people subconsciously close to them, and it is difficult to raise hostility." The queen of the demon realm was leaning against a stone pillar not far away with her arms around her chest. Her voice was lazy, but this does not mean that the Yaokai Holy Land is really a decent section. The way they follow is similar to my way, so it is okay for you to call her a demon woman. Does it mean that you admit that you are also a demon woman? Although Musian was surprised at the appearance of the queen of the demon realm, he still raised his hands and bowed, "Your Majesty." At the same time, he glanced at this woman twice. The queen of the demon realm hugged her hands in front of her chest. Her eyelashes were like fans, and a touch of blush at the corners of her eyes added a bit of charm, exuding a charming fragrance that was enough to make people intoxicated. Soon, Musian glanced at Wei Mengru, who had entered the palace gate without knowing when. He was shocked and said calmly, "Why is Sister Mengru here too? Oh my God, when did Sister Mengru come in? I am a natural spirit body, but I didn't notice it." "Well, but it is true. After all, it is the return to Void Realm. The gap between refining the spirit and return to Void cannot be made up by physical fitness. It is normal that Wei Mengru is difficult to detect after hiding her aura. But why didn't Yao Meng remind me, but let me do whatever I wanted just now? If I knew about this, I would be more reserved. After she comes back from the southern wilderness, I will use the purifying vine to play some fun games with her. But after returning to Lianji sect, I can play with Sister Mengru." The shy look of the cold maid on the bed is a wonderful scene that no painter can describe. Musian didn't have much time to think, and continued, "Your Majesty, when did you come in? You didn't remind me." Before Musian continued, I continued to change the subject, and then I heard the queen of the demon realm say with a numb voice, "Mr. Musehart just now told me, if you knew that I and the original witch were here, you would never be openly intimate with Yao Meng here. You can use the purifying vine to play a little game with her after she comes back from the southern wilderness, but when I return to Lianji sect today, I will play with the original witch first." "But how do you play this fun little game, and why do you need to use the purifying vine?" The queen of the demon realm looked at Musian with curiosity, intending to read his mind to find out. "Some people appear to be holy, but in fact they can play with Mr. Mew. Some people appear to be gentle and charming, but in fact their hearts are as pure as a little white rabbit who knows nothing. Wei Men grew slightly side-eyed and looked at the young master suspiciously. What the Queen of the Demon Realm said just now made her a little concerned. Musian's eyelids twitched wildly, his forehead was covered with black lines, and he said loudly, "Your Majesty, I may have to rush back to Lianji sect today to take Ruoxi to the demon world. I think I have to say goodbye to you for now. Your Majesty, I know you can read minds, but Sister Mengru is still here, please pay a little attention to my personal privacy, okay? If Sister Mengru knew that I had special thoughts about her, she would definitely be careful to guard against me in the future," Musian muttered silently. "Mind reading will unfold unintentionally in most cases, and I don't mean to listen to what you are thinking." The Queen of the Demon World stared at him with her charming eyes and said with a smile, "Although I don't know what the sexy game Musian mentioned before is, looking at his appearance, it doesn't seem to be a good thing." At this time, Wei Mengru's attention was quickly attracted by the green lotus ring on Musian's finger, and she said, "I remember you didn't seem to wear this ring before, did the Green Emperor give it to you when we talked just now?" The Queen of the Demon Realm also narrowed her eyes, looked at the green lotus ring in Musian's hand, and said, "This ring seems to contain the power of the lotus seeds of the Green Emperor's pure world Green Lotus, which is a good thing. The Green Emperor really loves him. The essence of the lotus seeds of the pure world Green Lotus can only produce a few in total. In the past, when the Green Emperor's spiritual consciousness was damaged, the lotus seed essence would repair her spiritual consciousness once every 1,000 years, so a lotus seed would also be consumed. Now the Green Emperor probably doesn't have more than 3 or 2 in his hand. Each of these lotus seeds can be made into a heavenly spirit instrument, and the Green Emperor is really willing to give it up. However, this ring seems to have the meaning of an engagement ring, and he was actually asked to wear it on his middle finger." The Queen of the Demon Realm looked at the green lotus ring with her charming and affectionate eyes. Her eyes were full of light and she said in a charming and sexy voice, "When you leave Lianji sect, you can inject your spiritual energy into the earthly mirror I gave you. I will use the mirror to take you to the demon world." Musian immediately raised his hand and bowed, saying, "Thank you, Your Majesty." The Queen of the Demon Realm walked over on her tall, sexy, and plump long legs. When she stepped on high-heeled boots, her height was a little taller than Musian. She held Musian's hand with the wedding ring, and gently stroked the green lotus ring with her slender hand, smiling, "Do we need to thank each other? This ring is pretty," she suddenly said. Obviously, seeing this ring and thinking of the things that might have happened between the Green Emperor and Musian before, the Queen of the Demon Realm should be angry at this time. But for some reason, after seeing Musian wearing a wedding ring, she was not angry at all, but more excited. She didn't seem angry at all. Musian was a little puzzled. He looked at this sexy and tall figure, charming, sexy, with small red lips, plump lips, and even painted with enchanting red rouge, which made people want to taste the taste of this rouge. The Queen of the Demon Realm and Yao Meng are two completely opposite styles. At this time, the Queen of the Demon Realm put her hands on her knees, bent her knees slightly and half knelt down. Under Musian's doubtful eyes, she raised her enchanting scarlet eyes and suddenly smiled charmingly. Then, the Queen of the Demon Realm lowered her head slightly, and kissed the Qinglian ring on Musian's left hand with her plump red lips. "I wish you a safe journey. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." So, they were the protagonists all along. Author, CCC. Chapter 425. Lianji Sect. Lianji Peak, located deep in the sect, is not high, but it is extremely majestic and majestic. It looks like a giant lying on its side, stretching for dozens of miles with no end in sight. And this is only its main peak, not counting the two smaller peaks. In Lianji Peak, in a certain courtyard, a charcoal fire was blazing. Bai Ruoxi, Lan Mulian, Lan Feiying, Ye Qian and Ye Lingxian were enjoying afternoon tea. They had just finished their meditation practice and went to Lianji Peak to have tea with Lan Mulian. Originally, everyone's relationship was incompatible, but now because of the common enemy Qingdi, the relationship is not as bad as it was at the beginning. In the corner, Lin Ling, the cook, was holding a roasted, tender and delicious chicken leg and gnawing on it, not knowing much about the world. If Musian saw this scene, he would sigh with relief. This is the beautiful and harmonious life he longs for. A few days ago, the evil spirit in Yuzhou covered half of the sky. I think it was Brother Mu who successfully refined the Tegzupil, but I don't know if he has evolved into the nine-tailed sky fox. Ye Lingxian suddenly said softly. From the corner of her eye, she saw the cold beauty squatting beside the charcoal fire with her knees folded, and continued, since Sister Ruoxi has the body of a three-tailed fox, did she realize how many tails Brother Mu was exuding at that time? Although she was able to capture Musian's aura through the lock of desolate time, she didn't know anything about the nine-tailed sky fox, and naturally she didn't know how many auras he exuded. Since Bai Ruoxi has the body of a three-tailed fox, she might be able to detect what kind of body Musian has now. The girls' thoughts were slightly moved, and their eyes were looking at Miss Bai intentionally or unintentionally. Bai Ruoxi held the teacup with both hands, blew in the hot air, shook her head slightly and said, I don't know, but according to the demon world, the stronger the demon aura, the greater the abnormality when the body evolves. When Ye Qian heard this, his eyes immediately lit up slightly. If this is the case, and the evil spirit covers half of the sky, maybe Brother Mu has really evolved into the form of a nine-tailed celestial fox. She was surprised at first, and then soon, she felt a little more happy when she thought that Brother Mu could return to his original appearance. Compared to Musian when he was a big boy, she still prefers Brother Mu who can guide others when he grows up. Unlike those big sharks in the Hedeo realm, Ye Qian prefers the feeling of a little bird clinging to a human being, and doesn't like practicing. Lan Mulian's eyes flashed slightly, and she suddenly asked, if he becomes a nine-tailed fox, is there any way for you to evolve into the form of a nine-tailed fox? I don't know. Bai Ruoxi looked as normal and said softly, but if Mu Lang really becomes a nine-tailed fox, then I will be happy for him. Whether she can achieve dual constitutions or not is not important to her. For me, it's enough as long as everything goes well for Mu Lang, Bai Ruoxi said softly. There was doubt in Ye Lingxuan's eyes, but it stands to reason that it has been 5 days since Brother Mu refined the Tegzupil. Could it be that he was delayed by something in Yuzhou? It had been at least 5 days since Musian refined the Tegzupil. When they left, they were sitting in a dragon bird and phoenix chariot. The dragon bird, especially the dragon bird cultivated by Qing Emperor, could fly with its wings spread 30,000 miles. Logically speaking, it shouldn't take 3 or 4 days to get back. Lan Feiying listened to these speculations and suddenly laughed. I'm afraid he has been abducted by Qing Emperor and taken somewhere. As soon as these words came out, the previously harmonious atmosphere suddenly turned cold. After a while, a powerful spiritual consciousness awakened from Bai Ruoxi's body, and her white palace skirt was stained with black plum blossom patterns. I'm sorry, she doesn't dare. Len Ao's calm voice came from the mouth of Bai Ruoxi, who had always been weak. Emperor Qing is not the only one who can inherit the 9 seats in heaven. Now that she is refining her soul and returning to the void, Gong Lianyu will no longer be as confused as in the past. Her spiritual consciousness has also fully awakened. Although she has not yet ascended, as long as she resonates with the new way of heaven, she will be able to escape from the rules of the world. It is only a matter of time before he becomes an immortal and ascends to heaven. Late that night, Bai Ruoxi was meditating in Tianhe Garden, and the soft white light enveloped the entire room. Normally, When a monk meditates and practices and breathes in spiritual energy, he needs to guide the newly absorbed spiritual energy to circulate in the body for 5 days before he can use it for his own use. Bairuoxi is naturally no exception. It's just that she has the blessing of the chi of heaven, and the time it takes to run the 5 heavens is only 1/3 of others. Bairuoxi slowly opened her eyes. There was a cold and proud light in her right eye, while her left eye was still weak. The white palace skirt is intertwined with black patterns, and pink plum blossoms embellish the black and white palace skirt, blending it with indescribable charm. Why are you so absent-minded today and still thinking about Mulang? A sexy, cold, and arrogant voice floated out from Bairuoxi's red lips. With Emperor Qing accompanying you, you don't have to worry about his safety. It was Gong Linyu's voice. Bairuoxi said softly, Qing Emperor is the only one in the Ascension realm now, so I'm naturally not worried, but I'm worried that she will have more exaggerated thoughts about Mulang. For example, take him to the basement of Yaokai. Gong Lianyu chuckled softly, Qing Emperor will not do this. Even though she looks domineering, in fact she is not that kind of person. Doing this will make Mulang sad. After all, why do you think she would do this? Bairuoxi silently put away the concentric lock, I think so too. Gong Lingyu. Bairuoxi was silent for a moment, then suddenly asked, what do you like about Mulang? In fact, she had been worried before that Gong Lianyu might lie to Muzian because she was accommodating to her. Whatever you like about him, I will naturally like him. Gong Lianyu smiled and said, I know what you are thinking, but I own most of your memories. You and I are the same person. Whatever you like, I will also like. After all, you are the sword body and the leading spiritual consciousness. Bairuoxi was thoughtful, and then said, did you feel it when I was practicing dual cultivation with Mulang before? I was sleeping at that time, how could you feel it? Gong Lianyu pursed her lips and said coldly, the biggest difference between me and you is that I have no interest in dual cultivation, so if he is intimate with you in the future, you will still be the one to control the spiritual consciousness. If she, the majestic master of the Sword Palace, was teased to the point of making a sound by a young monk in the god-refining realm, wouldn't she be ridiculed to death if word spread about it? Bairuoxi groaned, and then suddenly thought about it, and said, but your heart just told me, I don't know what it is like to practice dual cultivation. If I have a chance next time, I will try to possess you secretly. Gong Lianyu raised her eyebrows and was about to speak when a figure sneaked in from the window sill. The two of them had almost a tacit understanding, and when they became quiet, Bairuoxi looked over, and then a look of surprise appeared on her face. Mulang, when did you come back? At the same time, Gong Lingyu also took this opportunity to converge her spiritual consciousness and return to the heart world between Bairuoxi's plump breasts to inhabit. At the same time, she observed the conversation between the two outside in the heart world. Muzian sneaked into the room from the windowsill and put his arms around the plump waist of the beauty in the palace dress very familiarly. Why was he talking to himself just now? Do you miss me? Muzian said with a smile. Bairuoxi's eyes sparkled and she said softly, of course I miss Mulang, where is Mulang? Muzian held down the concentric lock she secretly took out from her sleeve with one hand, and said softly, I came to you this time because of you. Bairuoxi glanced at him and asked doubtfully, but what's the matter? I plan to visit your parents' house, so I came to see you specifically to see if you are interested in going together. The land of the Fox clan, Bairuoxi reacted immediately and said sweetly, if Mulang is going to the demon realm, I will naturally accompany him. After all, I have been in Tianqian City since I was born and have never been to the Fox clan. Place. Bairuoxi was still a little curious about the place where her mother lived in the past. She wanted to see what the land of the Fox clan looked like now. But why does Mulang suddenly want to go there? Bairuoxi continued to ask. Muzian explained, The reason why I can successfully advance to the body of the nine-tailed celestial fox is because the first powerful person of the fox clan handed over the demon seed to me, and as a price, I need to find her spiritual consciousness. Find a way to revive her. Nine-tailed sky fox, Mulang has really been promoted to nine-tailed sky fox, by Ruoxi murmured, her beautiful eyes shining brightly as she looked at Musian. No wonder that when she saw Musian before, she felt her heart fluttering, and her eyes were even attracted to him uncontrollably. It's one thing to miss Musian, but at this moment Musian's naturally charming body also plays a huge role. However, although I got the demon throne of the nine-tailed sky fox, I can share this demon throne with you, Musian said again. His nine-tailed fox body is not a real constitution, but is similar to the previous pseudo-body, so he has no use for the complete nine-tailed fox seed. After all, Musian only has one real physique, which is the chaos body. The body of the nine-tailed fox is also included in the body of chaos. With a trace of confusion on her face, Ruoxi murmured, share the demon seed with me. Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. I have the medicinal effect of Tegzapil in my body. After being strengthened by the natural furnace cauldron, the medicinal power may be even stronger than before. If Ruoxi refines Tegzapil and I share the demon seed with you, you can also inherit it. The position of the nine-tailed fox. Ruoxi was originally full of confusion, but when she heard Musian's next words, she seemed to react. Under Musian's burning eyes, her pretty face turned red. At this time, Gong Lianyu, who had been keeping quiet, suddenly laughed teasingly in her heart, isn't this very good? Haven't you been hoping that Mulang can comfort your lonely heart these days? Now you are so empty. It can also be made up for. Palace Master, Ruoxi's pretty face turned hot, and she yelled angrily in her heart. However, at this moment, she felt a pair of hands hugging her slender waist, feeling the plump figure of the delicate beauty through the material of the palace skirt. Mulang, wait a minute. Before she finished speaking, Ruoxi's whole body suddenly tensed up, and her soft and charming face showed a slight distortion. She lightly covered her red lips, as if she was trying hard not to make a sound of surrender. In the past, Gong Lianyu had always been asleep, but now when she was intimate with Mulang, Gong Lianyu could clearly see inside her body. I'm sure I'll make fun of her again later. A spring night is worth 1,000 pieces of gold. For you, no matter how hard or tired it is, it's worth it. Musian vowed to contribute to the prosperity of Dongzhou and whispered softly into the beauty's ear. Then, he asked Ruoxi to support her on the table in front of the windowsill, bending down slightly, with half of her body pressed on the table and her butt raised. We haven't seen you for many days. Ruoxi seems to have matured again, and the color of this dress, could it be that the palace owner has woken up? Musian asked while admiring the shy appearance of the beauty in the palace dress. Ruoxi spat, gave Musian a charming eye roll, and said angrily, Mr. Mu is used to making fun of others. The palace master has indeed woken up, and now she is secretly watching me in my body. I don't know how she will make fun of me after this. It's all Mulang's fault. Such sentimental and resentful eyes are full of tender affection, which is really tempting. Facts have proved that Ruoxi's guess was indeed correct. At this moment, between Ruoxi's plump breasts, a woman wearing a black palace dress and a cold and arrogant temperament was sitting in the void. This is a hill made entirely of swords. The ground is full of dilapidated swords, and at the end of the hill, there is an ancient bronze sword standing. Gong Lianyu played with a strand of hair and looked at the world outside with a playful smile. In the void in front of her, a picture appeared out of thin air. She saw Musian teasing the beauty behind Ruoxi. He had been sleeping before, but now it is quite interesting to watch the intimacy between the two in this posture in the world of the heart. At this time, she suddenly heard Musian's laughter from outside. Can the spiritual knowledge between Ruoxi and the palace master be freely switched at any time now? Seeing Ruoxi nodding slightly, Musian blinked and put his arms around Ruoxi's waist. Seeing the shy look of the sexy and plump beauty in his arms, he said calmly, "Ruoxi, you know you want to prevent yourself from being what's the easiest way to make people laugh." Ruoxi turned her head slightly, looking at him mistily with her beautiful eyes, shy and timid, and confused in her heart. "I feel the same," Musian said, his palm gently covering the back of Ruoxi's hand. Ruoxi was confused at first and wanted to ask, but her body suddenly trembled and her toes tensed up. She glanced sideways resentfully and was about to speak, but when she looked at Musian, she seemed to have thought of something, and the corners of her mouth twitched slightly. Boom! A crack appeared in the world of the heart. Gong Lianyu, who was watching a play, seemed to realize something and raised her head suddenly, but found that she had left the world of the heart. When she raised her head, she only saw the night view of the courtyard outside the window. Gong Lianyu's beautiful eyes opened slightly, and she gritted her teeth in her heart and said, "Okay, how dare you harm me?" Ruoxi spoke softly, with a bit of grievance, I just hope that the palace master can use the spiritual energy to ascend as soon as possible. How can I harm you? We are the same person." Unlike Gong Lianyu, who had been watching indifferently in the world of the heart before, Ruoxi chose to occupy half of the body with Gong Lianyu, so at this moment, the palace skirt showed a pattern of intertwined black and white. "This doesn't hurt me." Before Gong Lianyu finished speaking, she seemed to feel something, and her delicate body suddenly trembled slightly. She wanted to turn around and glare at the young man who dared to disrespect her, but when she turned around, she saw a handsome and cute big boy. Instead, it was a bit crazy to watch. The charming body of the nine-tailed sky fox matched with the age of a young killer. Even a woman with a cold and arrogant temperament was speechless for a moment. "Palace Master, you finally woke up," Mu Jian spoke softly, his eyes full of longing. Gong Lianyu glanced at Musian sideways, pretending to be cold and said, "What does Mu Lang mean by this?" Just when I glanced at the young man, I couldn't help but feel my heart pounding at the sight of his big boy attitude. "Nothing." Musian shook his head gently, raised his head and stared at the cold and proud beauty, and said softly, "It's just that you have been sleeping all this time, and I miss you a little bit because I can't see you." There was a hint of coldness in Gong Lianyu's eyes. She wanted to continue speaking, but she heard Musian smile and say, "But it's fine now. I can always see you and hear your voice from now on." The room fell into silence for a long time. Gong Lianyu opened her mouth several times to say something, but she closed her mouth several times and remained quiet. At this time, Musian took advantage of the situation and stretched out his small hand to hold her slightly cold slender hand. He looked up and said affectionately, "Is it okay?" Gong Lianyu bit her lip lightly. Seeing his posture, she subconsciously wanted to let her spiritual consciousness return to the world of heart to escape, but Ruoxi secretly stopped her. After a long time, she lowered her eyes and said with a hint of coquettishness in her cold voice, Whatever you like, anyway, this body does not belong to me and has nothing to do with me." She said that, but now her spiritual consciousness is also online. The two of them are one body and two souls. What Ruoxi can feel, she will also feel. Musian's eyes were gentle and he asked her to bend over the table. Gong Lianyu's face turned red with embarrassment, and she turned her face away, as if she was going to be an ostrich, burying her head, raising her buttocks slightly, and then refused to raise her head again. "Anyway, the arrow is ready, so just let him do whatever he likes. After all, he has to go to the land of the Fox clan from now on, and I'm afraid there won't be any chance on the way." The land of the Fox clan, which used to be the overlord of the demon world, was even a top force that could compete with the first generation of demon kings at its peak. However, after the fall of the nine-tailed celestial fox, it gradually declined. Until today, most of the demon cultivators who once lived in the Fox clan have moved out of this area. The next morning, after Musian explained to others, he rode on the dragon bird and went to the demon world with Bairuoxi and Wei Mengru. It's a pity that Miss Lin Ling is a guardian beast of the sect, with a noble status, and this trip is to the demon world, otherwise it would be quite cool to ride her. Musian rode between the towering valleys, admiring the scenery along the way, and sighed in his heart. The demon world and Dongzhou are worldly enemies, the kind that cannot be reconciled. If Linglong follows, I'm afraid the two sides will have to fight on the spot. For the demon cultivators in the demon world, a guardian beast of Dongzhou running to the demon world is no less than declaring war on the demon world. Although they didn't know, Master Mu, a cultivator from Dongzhou, also had a close relationship with the queen of the demon realm. After nearly a week, the land of Dongzhou had gradually faded from sight, and what appeared in Musian's vision was a landform that looked like a primeval forest. The mountains below were continuous, and the dense ancient trees supported their branches like giants, and the dense leaves covered the sky. The convenient water system spread across the land like meridians, and the blooming hydrangeas bloomed side by side, charming and enchanting. There are mountains everywhere in the demon world, and the greening vegetation is really well done. Musian whispered to himself in surprise. All parts of Dongzhou were occupied by major ancient families, and the remaining places were either too desolate or poor in resources. And because of their own reasons, the demon cultivators in the demon world were scarce, but they did not open up too many areas for reclamation, retaining the most original appearance of Bizhu. If there wasn't a great abyss between the demon world and Dongzhou, I'm afraid there would be many cultivators in Dongzhou and even ordinary people in the mortal world who would want to live here. Bairuoxi suddenly said softly. Musian sighed. I used to think that the environment in the demon world was bad, but now it seems that I was too subjective. It is said that Dongzhou has the richest resources, which is true, but if we talk about resources such as wood, I'm afraid the demon world will be much richer. Malang, I'm cold, Bairuoxi said softly with a somewhat pitiful attitude in the cold wind. There was a bit of weakness between her eyebrows, and she subconsciously leaned on Musian. Hold on, we're almost there. Musian hugged Bairuoxi's waist and let her lean on him. Nestled in Malang's warm chest, Miss Bai no longer felt cold, closed her eyes sweetly, and leaned her soft body on him. After a while, she said with some worry, Malang, is it okay for us to rush into the demon world? Musian shook his head and smiled. It's okay, I have made an agreement with someone, she will take us to the land of the Fox clan, and there will be no trouble along the way. Bairuoxi's beautiful face gradually lost expression, and she vaguely guessed something, and her eyes were filled with deep coldness. The pitiful posture just now disappeared in an instant. But soon, she regained her weak and lovely posture and said softly, does Malang know anyone in the demon world? But the demon world is a world that pays the most attention to status and bloodline. If it is just a demon cultivator, I am afraid we can't avoid the trouble of this trip. If she is, there will be no problem, Ruoxi should also know her. We have dealt with her in the past, Musian said. Bairuoxi's eyes flashed with doubt. Before she could ask again, she saw Musian looking forward and said, it seems that she arrived first and is waiting for us now. Bairuoxi looked over and saw a valley in the distance. Her eyes suddenly focused and she saw a charming woman standing in the valley. The queen of the demon realm. So, they were the protagonists all along. Author, CCC. Chapter 426. The Queen of the Demon Realm. Seeing the woman in the valley, Bairuoxi's beautiful eyes, which were always soft and gentle, turned a little colder. But soon, she returned to her original cold and weak posture, turned her head to look at Musian, and said softly, Mulang, why is she willing to take us to the land of the Fox clan? Did you promise her anything? It's nothing, I just don't know why she became my wife. If there is a promise, it may be that Mulang will offer himself after this." Musian shook his head and smiled. "It's nothing, but I provided a lot of information to the demon world when I was in Lianji sect before. I think the queen agreed to take us to the land of the Fox clan because of this. With her leading the way, I think there will be no problems along the way." Ruoxi whispered to herself, with the hostility in her eyes not diminished at all. Wei Mengru said suddenly, "The demon world is the place that pays the most attention to bloodline, and sometimes the importance of bloodline is far higher than realm. In this demon world where the weak are the prey of the strong, bloodline means a strong demon family background and a blood talent with a promising future. Even this bloodline alone can intimidate demon cultivators of the same realm. The queen of the demon world has grown from an unknown little demon cultivator to the present, and even killed her adoptive father, the first-generation demon emperor, and devoured his essence. Now in the entire demon world, her bloodline is the top one. You came much earlier than I thought. I thought you would rest in Lianji sect for 2 days." In front of the valley, the queen of the demon world wore a charming smile, her eyes were full of light, and she looked at Musian. "Your Majesty, why are you dressed so plain today?" Musian said in surprise. At this moment, the queen of the demon world was wearing a plain tube-top skirt, matched with a light-colored blouse, and a pair of deerskin boots under the skirt. This set of clothes is obviously for well-educated and well-mannered people. If the girls around Musian wear it, they will definitely look fresh and elegant. But when it is worn on this plump and sexy woman, it reveals some indescribable temptation. "Is it suitable?" The demon queen raised her eyebrows slightly, turned around gently in front of Musian, and her skirt fluttered. "It is very suitable, this is really hot." Musian smiled and nodded. "It suits your Majesty very well." He praised sincerely. It should be said that she is worthy of being the demon master who fascinates all living beings. Her true body is so charming and moving. Therefore, no matter how fresh and elegant the clothes she wears, it seems like she is playing uniform temptation with Musian. Ruoxi frowned inadvertently, and looked at the demon queen who deliberately seduced men with cold eyes. Although Wei Mengru had no expression on her face, she couldn't help but pursed her lips, with a bit of hostility in her heart. The queen of the demon realm usually looks seductive and charming, and she always exudes the charm of seducing monks. As a result, when she saw Musian today, she changed into a very visually impactful outfit. It is hard not to doubt this woman's motives. The queen of the demon realm glanced at the two beauties in the little yellow skirt and the little white skirt on the dragon bird indifferently, and laughed softly. "Then it is worth it that I specially asked the first seed to rush to make the set of plain and low-key clothes? Didn't the first seed tell your Majesty that you will be seductive no matter what you wear?" Musian complained in his heart. The path taken by the queen of the demon realm is seductive and charming. Whether she intends to or not, every move will seduce the hearts of monks all the time, making people obsessed. Therefore, no matter how pure and elegant the queen of the demon realm wears, it will only be like a uniform temptation. Among the people around Musian, he has never seen a woman as seductive as this Majesty. The only one who is similar to the queen of the demon realm is Lan Feiying. However, Lan Feiying's charm and passion are internal, while the queen of the demon realm is charming and beautiful, like a fairy. The two seem to be the same, but in fact they have two completely different temperaments. I saw that the resources of the demon realm seem to be very rich. Why did the first generation of the demon king always want to conquer Dongzhou when he was alive? Musian suddenly asked. The wood resources of the demon realm are extremely rich, while Dongzhou has more natural materials and treasures. If the two can complement each other, it should be beneficial to both sides. When the queen of the demon realm heard this, she immediately showed a playful smile. At that time, the old man got a copy of the Tianhuan Gongfa from somewhere. Among the powerful people in the same Hedao realm, except for the Qing emperor, other Hedao realms were difficult to deal with him. At that time, the nine-tailed sky fox, The emperor-eating ant and the first generation of the demon king divided the demon realm into three parts. The demon realm was in turmoil. If you want to temporarily unify the demon realm, there is only one most direct way. With just a few simple words, Musion has roughly understood the demon realm at that time. The emperor-devouring ant and the nine-tailed sky fox have both produced powerful beings in the Hedeo realm. As powerful beings in the Hedeo realm, naturally, neither of them would submit to the other. But if they continue to waste their energy internally, the demon world will always suffer. So the first generation of demon kings chose the simplest and most brutal way: external enemies. No wonder Dongzhou and the demon world are enemies. Sometimes a simple move by these big men can affect the situation of the entire Zhou, Musion sighed in his heart. Then, he invited the queen of the demon world to get on the back of Lonke together. The back was once again pressed by a pair of round peaches, and the weight increased. Lonke tilted his head and looked at Musion, blinking his innocent animal eyes. Be good, just bear it and it will pass. Musion touched Lonke's head with sympathy, and then saw that it refused to take off, so he slapped it on the head. The dragon bird let out an angry hiss and turned its head suddenly to protest, but when she turned her head, she saw the enchanting and charming eyes of the queen of the demon realm staring at it, as if to say, "It's okay for the other two women to sit on your back. If you think this or that is too much, are you thinking that I am too heavy?" Taking another look at the little yellow skirt and the little white skirt staring at him on his back, the dragon bird let out a low cry and silently withdrew its animal eyes, feeling aggrieved. At this time, it smelled a faint medicinal fragrance and subconsciously opened its mouth. Musion had already thrown 2 fifth-grade elixirs into the dragon bird's beak. The listless dragon bird's eyes suddenly lit up, and it suddenly raised its proud head, vibrating its wings, and soared into the sky of the demon world with a neighing sound. In this world, both demons and beasts can practice, and 2 fifth-grade elixirs are enough for more than a month of practice under normal circumstances. For Lonke, such a big supplement can naturally offset the hard work along the way. During the bumpy and tiring journey, Musion accidentally discovered the spirit chicken, spirit deer, and wild fruits unique to the demon world in the ancient forest, so he shot a few of them on the spot, set up an iron pot, and after eating and drinking, the men continued to ride the dragon bird, led by the queen of the demon realm, and continued to go north, gradually approaching the deserted land of the Fox clan. Southern Wilderness. Regina, who had returned to the southern wilderness with Yao Meng, was now standing in the temple of the Holy Land, pointing at 3 ruins on the sheepskin map on the desk. The god of the ocean has guessed that you won't let it go. The southern wasteland is vast, but its hiding place is only these 3 ruins. She moved up the 3 ruins circled on the map and stopped in front of one of the cities. In addition, this was also one of the cities controlled by the god of the ocean, with the facilities it laid out. Formation, so it may also be hidden here. The life of the god of the ocean is approaching, so he has lost his resonance with the Tao. Now he only has enlightenment, but if he works hard, he can still merge with the Tao in a short time. With the blessing of the southern wilderness, I am afraid it will be difficult to deal with. Regina did not forget to remind. Yao Meng said calmly, "You are obviously a saint of Nanhuang, but you are willing to help me. Aren't you worried that Nanhuang will not have the support of Hedeo in the future?" Regina shook her head. The cultivation system of southern wilderness is special. The 3 pillars of God represent the 3 major gods of southern wilderness. If the 3 pillars of gods do not die, there will be no new Hedeo realm, and even the resources between heaven and earth will be lost in the past, occupied by them. The death of the god of the sea will represent the end of an era in the southern wilderness, and after that, new forces will spring up like mushrooms after a rain. She is confident that if the 3 pillar gods can cultivate to the level of harmony, she can do the same. But if that's the case, I'm afraid there will be new forces taking over in southern wilderness soon. By then, you may no longer be the holy maiden of southern wilderness. In this case, aren't you worried, Yao Meng asked with great interest. Asked. Regina smiled and said, if anyone wants to give her the saintess's title, I don't have much interest in the saintess's title now. Nowadays, the deal with someone is more important than the status of saint. And Regina raised her eyes to look at Yao Meng and said sweetly, I have already contacted several elders who belonged to my sect in the past. I am confident that I can control the resources of southern wilderness in my own hands. In the past, the southern wilderness was divided into 3 parts of the world, but now the god of the sky and the god of the earth are dead. Once the god of the ocean is also dead, the resources of the southern wilderness will become the primary target for the new forces that are born. And Regina has naturally made plans in secret. Few people who can sit in the position of a saint are fools and are not even prepared for their own escape. What's more, if you invite Musian to southern wilderness in the future, you have to prepare some congratulatory gifts, right? 2 days later, a group of people rode dragon birds through an extremely lush mountain forest. In the mountain forest, pink evil spirit shrouded, exuding an ominous atmosphere. This kind of monster energy is extremely terrifying, which means that there are at least old monsters of the 6th level and above who are retreating in this mountain forest. If Musian was walking alone, he would probably feel a little frightened. But because the Queen of the Demon Realm was sitting next to him and could touch the opponent's fair skin from time to time, plus the Queen of the Demon Realm's previous message of comfort, Musian didn't feel scared. It's great to have His Majesty here. Looking at the unknown mountain forest under the sky, Musian sighed sincerely in his heart. In the demon world, there are old monsters with extremely long lifespans living in many mountains and forests. In this demon world where the weak eat the strong, the survival of a young demon cultivator is extremely important to bloodline. Good bloodline means a huge background. As long as they are not mortal enemies, these old monsters will rarely kill such a bloodline monster cultivator. If the bloodline is not good, then it depends on luck. If you are unlucky and happen to encounter an old monster awakening while passing through a certain mountain forest, then even if you are captured and refined into blood essence and swallowed, you will have to consider yourself unlucky. All in all, there are old monsters practicing in seclusion in many deep mountains in the monster world. Usually some weak monsters will choose to shield their own spiritual energy when passing through these mountains. They also dare not fly in the sky with swords for fear of being recognized as a kind of monster. Provocative. If Musian went alone on this trip and rode a dragon bird with great fanfare, even if he could summon Yekings in, he would inevitably cause a lot of trouble along the way. However, because the Queen of the Demon Realm was accompanying her, although many old demon cultivators in seclusion were alarmed when flying over the mountains, and some even rushed out of the cave with a hot temper, they all looked up at the dragon bird. After the figure on his back, he returned to the cave sky in fear. Most demon cultivators in the demon world probably don't know Your Majesty, right? Why haven't we been intercepted by demon cultivators along the way? Musian was riding on the dragon bird and suddenly asked. On his left was Bairuoxi, and on his right was Wei Mengru and the Queen of the Demon Realm. Bloodline is more important than anything else in the demon world. Most demon cultivators in the demon world have never seen me, but that doesn't mean they can't identify the aura on my body. The Queen of the Demon Realm explained. She leaned against Musian's side with one leg, sitting in a lazy posture, and even her voice had a lazy and tender feel. Musian was slightly understanding. Even though she does not have the status of being the master of the demon world, the Queen of the Demon World has a noble bloodline. No wonder the journey has been so smooth. Okay, speed up, we should be almost there. Musian gently touched the dragon bird's head and fed it 2 5th-grade elixirs. The back of the dragon bird is very crowded. After all, under normal circumstances, a dragon bird can only carry 2 people at most. As a result, Musian already had 3 people on the way to the demon world, and now there are 4 people sitting on the dragon bird. On the back. This mount from Yaokai Holy Land had to bear a weight that it shouldn't bear, Yet it dared not speak out in anger. Oh no, because there are 5th grade elixirs as food, Lonke looks quite happy at the moment. It stands to reason that the queen of the demon realm, Bairuoxi, and Wei Mengru can fly in the air, and their speed will be much faster than the dragon bird carrying 4 people at the moment. Otherwise, Musian sacrificed a measuring ruler and followed behind them. It's not like Lonke's back is so crowded at the moment. However, the soft bodies of the beauties beside him, and even the pert buttocks that were almost pressing on his legs, whether it was the feel of the hand or even the touch of skin, Musian could not refuse. If you squeeze with a beautiful woman, it's not crowded, it's considered enjoyment. But it happened that in such a crowded situation, the queen of the demon realm and others also did not say anything to leave the dragon bird's back, and chose to fly behind to follow. Even Bairuoxi, who didn't like the queen of the demon realm, acquiesced to her being next to Mulang. After all, it is inevitable to fight when you open your mouth, and when you fight, maybe it will be Musian who leaves the dragon bird's back and flies with his sword in the end. The queen of the demon realm also understands this truth, so she didn't mention the topic of the dragon bird's back is too crowded during this whole journey. The dog men and women tacitly skipped this topic. From the demon world to the land of the Fox clan, it would take about 3 days to fly on a dragon bird. After the group traveled for 2 days, the originally lush mountain forest gradually turned into a desolate plateau. The altitude is high, the climate is cold, and the air is extremely thin. At this time, the dragon bird turned its head and neighed, turning its head to look over with tears in its eyes. Although Musian fed Lonke a lot of pills along the way, which improved its level a lot, its physical strength was still limited after all. Since Lonke is tired, let's stay overnight in this cave. If nothing happens, we can reach the land of the Fox clan tomorrow afternoon. The queen of the demon realm took out a blooming hydrangea from her palm and suggested. Bairuoxi glanced at the hydrangea in the queen of the demon realm's hand, and suddenly there was a strange look in her eyes, and she subconsciously covered the hydrangea ornament hanging on her chest. Seeing the hydrangea, she thought of many bad things. For example, in order to help her shield the demonic aura, Musian begged the queen of the demon realm for the magic weapon that could shield the demonic aura. During the period of pleading, it was not known what kind of sacrifice Mulang had made for this magic weapon. The queen of the demon realm gently threw the hydrangea flower, and the next moment, the cave in her palm shone with a strange purple light in mid-air, absorbing the 4 people into it. In the cave sky, there is a magnificent valley. Under the valley, you can see with the naked eye a large hall located there. The queen of the demon realm looked sideways at the 3 of them and said with a smile, "You have been traveling for more than 2 days in a row. Although there are dragon birds carrying you along the way, your mental power has its limit after all. You should have a good rest tonight." Musian said yes, and the 3 of them followed the queen of the demon realm into the hall. After finding a place to live, Musian was about to enter the grotto to meditate. At this time, Bairuoxi suddenly called out softly from behind, "Mulang, wait a minute, I have something to talk to you about." Musian pondered for a moment, glanced around, confirmed that no one was around, and nodded slightly. "In that case, let's go back to the house and talk slowly." After saying that, he took the beauty's cold little hand and walked into the room in the palace. Unknowingly, the 2 of them had entered the small room inside the palace. Different from Musian's impression of the queen of the demon world, who was both cold and seductive, the decoration in the cabin can be said to be quite girlish, with light pink tones all around, and even a strawberry pattern on the table. There were 2 candles burning beside the bed, and there was also a candle burning quietly on the table. Unexpectedly, the queen of the demon realm is quite a little girl at heart. It is completely impossible to tell that she is a ruthless empress who dominates the demon realm and even swallowed the essence and blood of a generation of overlords. Musian turned around and said, "Ruoxi, what do you want to say?" Bairuoxi's eyes were a bit complicated and she said softly, "I know Mulang came here for the soul locking bell, but this trip went to the land of the Fox clan. If possible, I want to go to the place where my mother once lived. Take a look, maybe it will delay some time. There was a bit of worry in her eyes, worried that it would delay Musian's business, but this was probably the only chance to come to the demon world, and she might not be able to come again next time. The land of the Fox clan has declined so far, and when the next time changes, things will become even more different. By that time, I am afraid that even the house where Bai Yuanfeng told his daughter that she once lived will have been completely erased by time. I brought you here this time just to fulfill your wish. You and I don't have to have so many worries. Musian smiled gently. While speaking, Musian had already closed the door. When he turned around, he happened to see Bai Ruoxi sitting down at the desk by the windowsill and taking out pen and paper from the ring. I remember that my mother told me something about the land of the Fox clan before, and also showed me the map. Since I have a rest tonight, I will take this opportunity to roughly draw a map of the land of the Fox clan, and wait. When tomorrow comes, maybe Mulang will have some trouble left. As soon as Bai Ruoxi finished speaking and turned around, she saw Musian walking behind her, holding her waist, and then gently pressing her on the desk. Lang, Bai Ruoxi shouted in confusion. This is more convenient, Musian explained while looking at the beauty in the palace dress who was leaning on the desk with her plump figure facing away from him. Bai Ruoxi's eyes flashed with confusion, but it's not convenient for me to draw pictures. But this makes it easier to multitask. It's okay. You draw your picture and I do my thing. We won't waste any time. Musian took Bai Ruoxi's hand and motioned her to continue painting, then reached out and lifted up the white palace skirt. Bai Ruoxi's beautiful eyes widened suddenly, as if she had reacted, and she glared at him with shame. He immediately blushed and looked away from him, silently lowering his head to draw the map.